Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome here to the Launchpad, or maybe good morning or evening, depending on where you're joining us from. You are looking at a hazy view of SpaceX Starbase, Texas, as we begin our countdown to launch live coverage for the historic Flight 12, the first ever flight of Starship V3, the first flight of the V3 Super Heavy booster, the first flight from Pad B at SpaceX Starbase, the first flight from this type of orbital launch mount, the first flight with this type of water deluge system, the first flight with Starlink simulators that can actually transmit data, the first flight on this trajectory of a launch and reentry for the Starship ship, and probably a whole bunch of other firsts that we don't actually know about because SpaceX hasn't told us yet. But we are so glad to have you joining us live here today. We're going to be taking you through the next 90 minutes of countdown and, of course, the full flight from launch to booster splashdown in the Gulf of America to the Starship splashdown in the Indian Ocean just off of Australia. We will, of course, patch in SpaceX's live feed once they begin their live coverage. About 45 minutes from now, we'll listen in for those live commentary updates from them because they know more than anybody else because they're the ones actually in mission control. But right now, you are looking at 3 live views from our very own TLP cameras down at Starbase, shooting about 5 miles. That's why we got a little bit of haze. We don't have any cameras this time right up next to the rocket, but we are working on that for the future. And that's only thanks to your guys' generous support of watching and sharing out the stream. We got lots of people tuning in from all over the world. We're glad to have you joining us here. If you haven't yet, take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. We'll do some shout outs here. And while you do so, hit that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us, share it on all your social medias, text it to a friend or two, text it to somebody you don't like and say, hey, you might want to watch this. It is going to be an exciting day in spaceflight as we hopefully see a successful flight of V3 and the Super Heavy all new rocket engines, the V3 engines on both vehicles, or will history repeat itself? And will the first flight, like V1 and V2, not end up very well? We'll have to wait and see, and hopefully we will find out in just over 90 minutes from now. We got Ekabera, sorry if I said that wrong, in New Jersey. Welcome. We got Zach watching. Welcome. Wondering if anyone's in Indonesia or Malaysia. Welcome. We got Jab watching from Poland. We got Toast and Loaf from Alabama. Great to have you here. Cheryl's watching from Mariposa, California. John is in Wisconsin. We got Kokomo in Angura. Sorry if I'm saying that. Angura Hills, California. Welcome. Neptunes is in Salvador in Brazil. Welcome. We got Allspeed in Indiana. Brown is in Sydney, Australia. That would be very early morning for you guys. Good morning. Mitchell's from Mackay in Queensland, Australia as well. John's in Arizona. Son of Miguel is in Belfast, Ireland. We got Pensy in North Carolina. Windbreaker is in South Arkansas. Welcome. Great to have you here. Harry is in Devon in the UK. Lots of people just jumping on. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from and share at that stream. I see the first question coming in from a lot of people. If you guys have questions, share those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad. If you do that tag, it highlights it in my system, makes it a little bit easier. Make sure I won't miss your question or I can come back to your question if I'm currently answering one. We know that yesterday the launch was scrubbed due to a pin on the quick disconnect of the tower. So it was a ground support issue, and teams did work through the night to resolve that. Elon said they would have another attempt today if they were able to resolve it overnight. And here we are. As you can see on that bottom screen, the tank farm has become active, and they are getting ready to fuel up Starship in preparation for flight. 37 minutes, 40 seconds from now, we will hopefully have the confirmation of that go for propellant loading. Obviously, there's a lot of steps we have to get through to that point, but we'll be keeping a very close eye on that over the next 45 minutes or so, and of course bring you any updates that we get from SpaceX. Hopefully we don't have to delay like we did yesterday. We had 2 small delays, 30 minutes each, but we do have a 90-minute launch window today. Quickly running you through everything that's on your screen so you have an idea what you're looking at. The cameras will move around, but the data on the screen shouldn't. In the top right corner on the big countdown clock, that is your L- countdown. That is your real world. How many seconds do I have to have, or how many seconds do you have until you have to be back looking at the screen for liftoff? Next to that, slightly smaller, we have the window closes time. That is the hard cutoff for Starship to be able to fly today. that 90-minute window. So that timer will count down. If we make an adjustment to the T0, that time will not change. In the bottom left on the current layout, on some of the other layouts, it's in your top left. Those are the milestones that we are counting down to. Right now, we are on our pre-launch countdown ones. During flight, we will have in-flight milestones that we will count down to as well. Obviously, as you can see, that first big one is the go, no go for prop load. The beach closed very early this morning, around 10 o'clock local time, and the road has been closed at multiple hard checkpoints as well. You can see there the tower venting has now really started to pick up as well as they start to purge the lines on the tower in preparation for propellant loading. So again, we are just seeing a great sign that they are working towards having some sort of launch opportunity here today. Elon tweeting a short time ago, they are targeting the opening of the launch window as things progress, but you can see that tower venting from our punched in camera. If you were watching yesterday, a much hazier day, 5 miles between us and the pad compared to yesterday, but the weather for launch has improved from 55% to 85% for the opening of the window. So a good sign that we should be able to have a launch here today as long as all the ground support stuff actually works. I think that's where a lot of us were watching closely yesterday, is that we believed that the rocket probably was in a ready configuration, but we were all watching to see if the ground support, it's a brand new pad, and we wanted to see if that was going to be able to support the launch. And ultimately, we had that pin on the quick disconnect arm that decided not to work. Lots of people just jumping on. Conrad from Munich, Germany. Colorist from London, UK. Scott's from Wisconsin. We got William watching from Lille in France. Welcome. We got Mufflem in, I'm going to say that wrong, so I'm just going to say Germany. General Dallas is in Alabama. Great to have you here. We got Peter from Hifram in the UK. Welcome. Chaz is in Tulsa. Frank is tuning in from Edmonton, Alberta. Great to see another Edmontonian. I'm just down the street somewhere from you, also in Edmonton, Frank. So it's great to have you here. We are broadcasting from our TLP Canada studio, but these are our live cameras from Starbase, Texas. We got Simon in Brittany in France. Captain Pike is 38,000 feet over Newfoundland. Are you using a Starlink for this broadcast? Because if so, that is what Starship's main objective is deploying the next generation of Starlink satellites. Obviously, there's a ton of other missions for it, for the moon and Mars, but ultimately, Starlink needs Starship to work to deploy those next generation V3 Starlinks to be able to bring online a lot more capability to the Starlink constellation. Son of Miguel asking, have you seen a Starship launch in person yet? Technically, I have seen 2. I've been to Starbase, I think 6, 7 times. I went for Flight 1. I ingested part of the Starship from Flight 1. It was quite a memorable flight for me. And I was there for Flight 6. So Flight 1, I sort of saw it because the pad exploded. We didn't really have a great visual, but I did technically see the tip of the rocket move like 10 feet. And then it was all kind of hidden from us. But Flight 6, we had an incredible view. Unfortunately, didn't get to see the catch attempt on that one because that was the one that the president came to, and there was some issues at the pad, and they didn't try a catch opportunity. But it was incredible to be there. But I have stood right underneath of basically a Starship in the 2022 Starbase update with Elon, was invited to that, which was really special. To have been invited that so early in the beginning of TLP. And it's an amazing place to always get to go back to. If you haven't yet, definitely take a visit to Starbase. It is already changing. Restrictions are starting to come into place, less places that you can go, which just makes sense. This is becoming a very active launch facility. It has been for years, but they are starting to make more restrictions as Starbase is now an official city. And is taking over a lot of the policing and different things themselves. So they are restricting a lot more as they have their own police force, as they are officially a city. It is no longer Boca Chica. It is officially the city of Starbase, which is so cool that that's a city that we have a name of. Yeah, exactly, Max Q. The antenna on Flight 6 on the top of the tower kind of fell over. It looks like one of the support straps snapped, and it just kind of bent over with the thrust and the wind from a launch, which makes total sense. But ultimately, Elon thinks they would have been able to catch it, but they didn't want to risk it. So Argyle says, let's light this IPO. I mean, the candle. I mean, ultimately, it's going to be really interesting to see how this affects that. I will say right off the bat, we normally say no finance chat in the chat, just like we do with Rocket Lab. If you're having a talk about the fact that they are publicly traded, that's allowed, but we don't allow people giving financial advice. I know we are all excited for SpaceX to be IPOing here in the very near future, but please don't take advice from people in the YouTube chat. I will never give you advice on whether you should buy stocks or not. I will tell you I personally will be, but that's my own financial risk, and I've talked to my own financial advisors about that and recommend that you guys do the same as well. But obviously, it's not something we're going to ignore. SpaceX is preparing to IPO. The paperwork has been filed with the SEC, and we will see what happens. So it's going to be an exciting time. If you haven't yet, take a moment, share out the stream, invite people to join us. We are counting down 1 hour, 20 minutes, 50 seconds and counting to the opening of the targeted T0 for today's flight. On your screen right now, you are looking at where the tower vent was. We'll move the camera around a little bit, give you guys a bit of a tour. On the very top, we have Starship S39. This is the first V3 ship that has made it out to the pad, gone through all of its pressure testing, static fire testing at Massey's, and is there. And on board Starship S39 are 22 Starlink simulators. These are similar in size to the next generation Starlinks that will be deployed hopefully starting later this year. They will be attempting to deploy these Starlink simulators during today's flight. We'll hopefully have some incredible views from on board of the deployment of those. And what they're doing is the last 2 satellites that are being deployed are going to actually have cameras and transmitters on them. So this is technically the first ever operational mission for Starship. Even though everything will be on a suborbital trajectory, they are going to be deploying their first ever satellites from Starship that will be fully functional, and they will attempt to take scans and pictures of the Starship heat shield after launch, but before reentry, to see how the heat shield performed in flight prior to having that reentry, where we've seen pictures of it belly flopping and landing and had an idea of what survived reentry, but we've never seen what Starship looks like right after launch other than from the onboard camera. So they're going to be analyzing that and hopefully transmitting that. If we're lucky, maybe we get to see something live, but we have no idea what to expect from that. So they'll be doing that. We'll run through some of the other objectives that they're going to try to do during today's flight in a little bit, but then continuing kind of the tour, scanning a little bit down from the ship, we have the new Super Heavy booster. This is a booster 19. It is going to be the first V3 booster, and it has many different changes that have come to it. A little bit of a sleeker design. It has 3 grid fins instead of 4, so it kind of looks a little weird. Also, it has a new crown, and if it was a little cleaner, I would punch the camera in even more, but if you were with us yesterday, it does have that new hot stage ring that is no longer a separable ring. They don't jettison it. It is affixed to the booster and has a new dome behind there that separates for the hot staging sequence when they ignite the Starship engines while still attached to Super Heavy before having stage separation. Continuing down towards the pad, you're seeing obviously the launch tower, but down at the base there, we do have the new orbital launch mount. This is a very different style of launch mount compared to flights 1 through 12, which launched from kind of what everyone called the table that had that water bed at the very base. This is a much more substantial flame diverter water system. It has flame trenches that shoot out in set directions. It has 2 quick disconnects instead of 1 quick disconnect, if I remember correctly. And you can see that there where the base of the booster is, and the booster kind of sits almost more on top of it. It's not as submerged as the Pad 1 orbital launch mount is. Still has all those same clamps holding onto it until that moment of ignition when all those clamps will retract and will separate, allowing the booster to take flight. Honestly, if you put all these engines to full thrust, it would probably just rip out of the clamps anyways. But obviously, we don't want them to do any more damage because we want this to be a rapidly turnaroundable system. Today's flight, as I said, we have those new V3 Raptor engines on both the first and second stage. The second stage used to have a ignition sequence where they slowly over a couple of seconds ignited all of the engines. They're doing something a little bit different today. Today, they're just going to say, let's go for it and turn all 33 on at the exact same time. So this is going to be quite a powerful event, and we will see what that looks like and how the pad and rocket stand up to that during today's liftoff sequence. Being able to do that, it's a little bit less wasted fuel, which means you have more fuel to burn for your flight. And I'm sure there's some other reasons that they've decided to try to do that maybe one day they will tell us. But they like to still keep a few secrets internally because everyone else wants to try to do this too. If you're just joining us, though, welcome. My name is Zach, founder and host here at the Launchpad. If you have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging me at the Launchpad, and I will work on answering those live while we continue through today's live broadcast. Philip says, a long await for a second giant leap for mankind we will gain from all this technology. I agree, Philip. There is so much tech that we all use on a daily basis, but for this broadcast to be happening, for you guys to be able to see the amount of tech that came out of the early space program, out of Apollo, and then out of the decades since, it's truly incredible. People that wear bifocal lenses, that was from the space program. If you've ever used WD-40, that was from Apollo. If you've ever used memory foam, that was from the space program. There are so many things that we take for granted that we may not have ever invented, or we may have invented a long time down the road, that we invented when we did because of the space program. And a lot of that gets taken for granted. And we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of this new space program. I think we're already starting to see it with the introduction of Starlink and just how much access people are starting to get to internet. It's truly incredible. I used to work in humanitarian aid prior to starting TLP, and one of the big things, we had huge plans on how could we spread education into remote regions of the world. And I've traveled to some of these communities where there is literally no communication available. They are 100% isolated. And we were like, what can we do to try to get this, that people would be able to have communication? And the one thing is, we're like, oh, it'd be really nice if we could just aim a dish at a satellite and get internet. And lo and behold, here we are, that we now operate TLP off of Starlink when we're using Luna or when we're out in the remote field. If you watched our Artemis 2 coverage, that was 100% internet-based via TLP and cellular that was bonded together. Thanks to our partners at LiveView for that. And it's just, we wouldn't be able to do this without this technology, and we're getting ready to take another step forward in that. And Starship's going to be a big part of that. So it'll be interesting to see how that all progresses. VoiceTube, this could end up being a pretty historic day. So cool. Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be in the history books no matter what happens with Starship. Hopefully we see some success today and not too much boom. I know everyone likes a boom. We all like a boom, don't lie. But we want this to obviously be successful as we count down here. So we are keeping an eye on that, that hopefully we see a successful flight. But keep in mind, this is a test flight. So just like previous flights, if something does have a failure, remember that SpaceX will celebrate that because ultimately they will get a lot of data from the vehicle and will learn from it and go forward to the next flight. But hopefully, if we have success, we may be 1, 2, or 3 launches away from an orbital flight of Starship, which would be really incredible. Galveston County Mike says, I'm 13 miles from the main gate of NASA Houston, Texas. Well, it's great to have you here. Thanks for watching. It was amazing to spend 2 weeks down there last month, well, just over a month ago now, being down at Mission Control Houston for Artemis 2. Really special stepping into the mission control room multiple times to witness Artemis 2 in live action in mission control, step into the Orion simulator, meet with a bunch of experts, and just hang out with the rest of the media, the world media that was there. Met some incredible people and made some new friendships there. And just, again, a huge thank you to NASA for that opportunity. It was really an honor to get to take part in all that. And personally, so many highlights, but flying the Orion simulator was really, really something I never thought I'd get to do, flying the actual sim that the crew had flown. And they had set it up that we just lucked out when my pairing got to go through, that the simulator had just run in time, that we got to experience Earth set with the moon exactly how the crew did. So I was in Victor's seat. The gentleman I was with one of the bigger news stations was in the commander's seat, but I got to take the controls and fly it around a little bit. Not like the crew was doing when Earth set. They were taking pictures out the window, but was really cool to get to have that simulated experience of exactly what they got to see with their eyes. So really, really special. So thank you to NASA for that. If you want to see, we do have some videos up on the channel and our social media of that, and we'll be posting some more in the near future as well. Captain Gersh, if the next 2 flights go planned, I believe they could go orbital on the 3rd flight and catch the ship. See, one of the things is just because they go orbital doesn't mean they have to catch the ship. And I think that's one thing a lot of us have maybe got wrong with this whole Starship program. SpaceX is trying to do this differently than they have before. With the Falcon program. With Falcon, they didn't care about recovery first. They cared about getting Falcon working and deploying payloads. Then they worked on Falcon recovery as a secondary mission. With Starship is designed as a fully reusable vehicle. So they have treated it as such that is one of the primary objectives. Right now, V2 Starship and probably even V1 could have been launching payloads into orbit. But the thing is, we weren't sure that we could guarantee a successful deorbit where we could bring it in a controlled reentry. We were nowhere near ready for a catch. But they do not want to use Starships in that capacity, clearly, based on the way that they've been doing this. I'm curious if we see a shift of that, whether they start doing Starlink deployments, even if we're not at 100% recovery. If it's still a test flight, are we going to test a catch or test a flight? Because they could put one of these in orbit, deploy a bunch of Starlinks, and then bring it back as if they're going to catch it at Starbase, but splash it down in the Gulf of America or just off the coast of California. And before they actually do try to bring it back, because it will be a very big day when they try to bring this back to Starbase for the first catch, because that'll be the first time that Starship has been authorized to fly over land. And this basically has to fly over Los Angeles on its reentry corridor. And that is a big risk, a big step up from where they're doing. That's why they're flying the trajectories they have. They're flying a slightly different trajectory, actually quite a bit different trajectory today. It'll end up splashing down roughly the same area. But because of that, because they did not want it flying over land. So we'll be keeping a very close eye on the upcoming launch trajectories. That'll give us a lot of information on how things will progress and how confident they are that they are wanting to do a catch opportunity. There's a lot of testing that has to happen for that, but that doesn't mean they can't go to orbit and start deploying things, even if they're going to throw a ship away. Because if you're just doing what you're doing today, you're throwing a ship away. So why not? If they're not ready to catch next flight, but they know they can reignite the Raptor engine, they know they can get it to orbit, why not put Starship in orbit and get 50 or 75 brand new V3 Starlinks in orbit before you throw the ship away again? And I definitely think SpaceX is going to start thinking that way. They need Starship to start deploying Starlink, and especially with the IPO coming up, it's going to be really interesting to see, because we saw it with Rocket Lab when they IPO'd. When you IPO and you're a publicly traded company, you do now have to respond to your shareholders. And the public is now going to be your shareholders rather than private. And that sometimes changes a company. I don't think we're going to see it change SpaceX much, but it will obviously enter the conversation. So it's going to be an interesting, exciting year for SpaceX. uh, I saw a question coming in there. Have we seen the chair? No, the chair from the vehicle assembly building for Artemis 2 has not made its way to Texas. We believe that has been rolled into a storage room somewhere at the vehicle assembly building. I love the space community that is a thing that we all are obsessed with, a chair. When we were watching a moon rocket get ready to roll out, we're watching a chair. It's just great. It shows that there's a really great community that's watching this, and we have fun. If you're just joining us, you're looking at live views of Starship, fully stacked out on a brand new pad, all new rocket, all new ship. And we are 1 hour, 7 minutes, 35 seconds away from the targeted T0. Means we're about 17 minutes away from that go, no go for propellant loading. And we are keeping a very close eye on SpaceX, waiting for any sort of updates from them on if there will be any changes for today's timeline. Yesterday, we saw, obviously, the update if they weren't ready for that T0. We normally got an update about 10 minutes from now is when we found out we had that 30-minute delay. So in about 5-7 minutes, we'll start to keep an eye out for any updates from SpaceX on any delays. But if we don't see that, then they'll be stepping towards that final go, no go for propellant loading. Send a Miguel, great question. What is your estimate on how many launches it'll take before orbital refueling? I think we're going to see, I would hope we see 2 or 3 orbital Starlink missions prior to that. But orbital refueling is a huge thing that they want to get done this year. They wanted to get it done last year, and unfortunately, V2 really set Starship back. They learned a lot from V2. They learned a lot of what not to do. And that is making V3 hopefully a lot more of a successful vehicle, a successful iteration. But I would think we'll probably see a couple Starlink missions happen prior to that. I would hope by the end of the year, they are at least preparing for orbital refueling. We know that this ship, Ship 39, has the orbital refueling kind of cone on it, similar to what the Apollo program used. So we are seeing the iteration in the ships preparing for that. Um, if I was rough guessing, I'd say we're 4 to 6 flights away at earliest from that, and that's if this flight goes perfect. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's a huge thing they need to do. And their focus also is getting a HLS variant of this in low Earth orbit by next summer for Artemis 3. They are in really almost a commercial space race with Blue Origin to have the best lander. NASA wants both Blue Origin and SpaceX to have a version of their human landing system in low Earth orbit next summer for the Artemis 3 crew to launch on Orion and to dock to both vehicles if they're both in orbit on the same mission. NASA has confirmed that the Artemis 3 mission will be longer than Artemis 2, which was 10 days. So we're expecting at least a 14-day Artemis 3 mission in low Earth orbit exclusively, where they dock and maybe spend a day or two attached to each ship. And then obviously they have to move between the 2 ships. So there'd be some burns there. But it's going to be really incredible to start seeing Starship and the Blue Origin system take some leaps forward this year in preparation for next year. Now, could they put HLS in orbit without doing orbital refueling? Yes, because they don't have to send it to the moon. But if SpaceX was smart and ready, they do need to land an HLS on the moon without people before NASA will put people on it. So if they could launch HLS to low Earth orbit, this is just my idea. SpaceX hasn't said this. Launch HLS to low Earth orbit, have the people go on to it, do the in orbit testing around the Earth. The people leave, and then SpaceX could refuel it and send it to the moon and do their lunar landing test all in one flight. And then they're only needing one HLS for that. Because keep in mind, the HLS variant, the human landing system for NASA, can never come back to Earth. It doesn't have flaps and it doesn't have a heat shield. It can never re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. If you're just joining us, though, welcome. You can take a moment, send in those questions in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live here today. I'm seeing some people tweet the S word, but I am not seeing that anywhere. So I think y'all are going to go enjoy the block party while the rest of us hang out here and count down to launch. We will bring you confirmed information from SpaceX and SpaceX only in this sense. We do have one of our TLP rocket chasers also down on site, the incredible Noah. If you haven't given him a follow over on X, definitely go check him out. We've been retweeting his photos there, and stay tuned later today and over the coming days for some more incredible photography from him. He's posted some great stuff prior to launch as well. And if you are just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad T-minus 60 minutes and counting. SpaceX is now less than an hour away from that targeted T0 for liftoff of Starship Flight 12, which means we are now just over 9.5 minutes away from that expected go, no go for propellant loading. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad Network. And here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. And we're glad to have you joining us live here today. If you haven't yet, do the YouTube things. Engage that like button, share out the stream, invite people to join us as we count down to launch. You are looking at live views of Starbase, Texas from our very own TLP cameras. We're shooting from about 5 miles away in one of the safe areas for today's flight. If it's your first time with us, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. These cameras you can watch 24/7. Right here on TLP with our Starbase 24/7 Now coverage, where normally, if it wasn't a launch day, we have these aimed at the launch site, at the build site, and at Massey's, so you can have a nice little overview of everything that's happening around Starbase. We got lots of people jumping in from all over the world, though, so if you haven't yet, take a moment. Let us know in the chat where you're watching from. You can also send in those questions. I've been answering them for the last little bit. I answer every single question you send in the chat, as long as we deem it an appropriate question to answer. Just make sure you're doing that tag at the Launchpad. It really does help us out that we are able to see that. If you'd like to support what we do here at TLP, you can do so just by watching, sit back, relax. Those ads that pop up now and again that YouTube decides to place in there is a huge way of supporting us. We know they're sometimes annoying. We do our best to make sure they don't happen during the actual launch, but we really appreciate that. But if you'd like to go a step further, consider hitting that join button, becoming a 99-cent a month member, getting that TLP helmet next to your name, or head over to Patreon if you want to go behind the scenes at TLP, support the build out of Luna, our first ever production unit, van, and a whole bunch more, as well as get yourself some exclusive TLP member merch. You can follow us over on all social medias. Just search for the Launchpad or TLPN on X and join us over on the TLP Discord. That's where our community hangs out in between streams. You can get live stream alerts and talk to me on off days. We would love to see you guys in there, and it's free to join, but members, of course, do have a members only area on the Discord as well, where they get to go behind the scenes. We are now 57 minutes, 37 seconds and counting till the current targeted T0 for liftoff of Starship Flight 12. We're awaiting any information from SpaceX on whether we are go for propellant loading or whether we will have some sort of a delay like we did yesterday. We, of course, are hoping for the first part of that, where we will step right into the launch countdown, but we'll be keeping a close eye on that as the timeline progresses. A big day for SpaceX, the brand new V3 ship, brand new super heavy booster, brand new pad, brand new launch mount, brand new engines, brand new hot stage ring, new grid fins, new heat shield tiles. There's not much that hasn't been flown before or has been flown before that is on this launch vehicle. So hopefully we will see a wonderful flight here today. But if not, as SpaceX always says, excitement is guaranteed. Marcine is asking, do you suspect Starship would be out of the experimental stage by the time of Artemis 3, or is it more Artemis 4 territory? Artemis 4. Artemis 3, I think, keeping in mind we're about a year away from that exactly. That's a lot that has to happen. I think there could be a variant of Starship that maybe is in the very end of its experimental phase and is in early operational phase 1, V1 of operational phase. By then, I hope, if everything goes well, that's what we hope for. But keep in mind, there are so many variants of Starship that need to be built. We need to have the NASA HLS variant. We need to have the tankers. Those will be just taking fuel off the planet up to depot ships. Depots will be like your gas stations in space. We're going to have the Starlink component ones where it shoots out Starlink like a Pez dispenser. We're going to have some sort of satellite version for regular dispensing of regular satellites, like on a transporter mission. We're probably going to have a Hungry Hippo style one. We'll probably have an expendable variant. We'll probably have a variant that it's the expendable one that jettisons its fairings, that can deploy much bigger satellites. There are so many versions of it. There's the Mars version for going to the space, to the Mars with crew. There's the Mars version to take cargo to Mars. There is SpaceX's crew version to go to the moon that can come back to Earth. There's SpaceX's cargo version that can go to the moon and come back to Earth. I mean, right there, you're at what, 10, 12 different variants of this ship. We have never had a rocket that will need to be as diverse as what Starship is going to be. Starship is replacing every type of rocket possible that has ever existed and every type of ship that's existed. And introducing a whole new fleet of other opportunities. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses, and we'll be keeping a close eye on it. T-minus 54 minutes, 45 seconds, and counting. We are keeping a close eye on it. We also do want to make a little bit of a space news update right here on the air. About 40 minutes ago, Blue Origin confirming the FAA has approved their New Glenn 3 report, and corrective measures have been implemented prior to their second GST-2 burn on NG3. They experienced an off-nominal thermal condition, and as a result, one of the BE-3U engines did not achieve full thrust to reach their targeted orbit. With that, New Glenn is officially cleared for flight by the FAA, meaning we could be just weeks away from the next flight of New Glenn from the Space Coast in Florida. We already know Blue Origin has the next ship built in their hangar and is already stacked with the second stage as well. So really, we could probably see rollout in the next week or two, which is incredible since that flight was only last month. But some good news from the competitor of who you're watching from here today. The New Glenn versus Starship race will continue. So you can see on your timer there, we're about 3 minutes, 30 seconds away from when we have that expected go, no go for the propellant loading. And we are keeping a very close eye on any updates from SpaceX. If they do step into that, we expect them to begin their live coverage. Like yesterday, we will patch them in and listen into SpaceX Mission Control, but I'll continue answering your guys' comments and questions while we go through that time, while they play through some different videos and things like that. We've yet to have that confirmation of go for prop load. Our system will probably auto flag that green if it hits the 0 seconds on that timer, but we will await for confirmation from SpaceX whether we are stepping into propellant loading or are going to be having any sort of a delay here today. But at this point, nothing is pointing to that. Weather's looking good. 85% go for launch for weather. If you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You are looking at live views of Starbase, Texas, where we are now just over 52 minutes from liftoff. We're answering your guys' comments and questions. You can send them in the chat for free. We don't charge. You just need to make sure you're tagging me at the launch pad and are subscribed, and then I will be making sure that I answer those questions for you guys here today. It is a hazy day down at Starbase, but it is clearing. If you scroll back a couple of hours to now, it is clearing. And I will say we don't have confirmation from SpaceX just yet, but with the large venting that we are now seeing from the tower, this is what we saw yesterday just before they stepped in to propellant loading on Starship and the Super Heavy booster. This large vent is what we have been waiting for to see, and we are starting to see this like we did yesterday. So I am saying that we are likely unofficially at this point go for propellant loading. We will wait for SpaceX to put out that tweet, of course, on X. Phantom asking, did they fix and find the issue from yesterday? Yes. So because we're going into an attempt here today, they did. Elon tweeted yesterday, and I'll just quote it, the hydraulic pin holding the tower arm in place did not retract. So we're assuming this is the quick disconnect arm for the ship. Elon said, if that can be fixed tonight, there will be another launch attempt tomorrow at 5:30 Central, which is exactly what we are counting down towards now, just under 51 minutes from now. We are keeping an eye out for any sort of confirmation from SpaceX at where we are at in the timeline, whether we've had that go or that no-go for propellant loading, or if they've had that at this time. But you can see that venting really starting to pick up now on the tower, and that is exactly what we saw yesterday before they stepped into ship LOX load about 11 and a half minutes after the go for propellant loading. We are ready to patch SpaceX in as well, so don't worry. If you're watching here, you're not going to miss any of the excitement of SpaceX being live. We will patch that in and listen into them right here while keeping you with the live views of the pad to see what's happening down there at Starbase. Just realized we had that music still turned up. My apologies. We will make sure that that stays down while we're talking while SpaceX is playing as well. My apologies. If we ever do that, if I'm talking and the background music's too loud, let me know, guys. Sorry about that. T minus 49 minutes, 47 seconds. We have passed that moment of go, no go, and we have yet to see a confirmation from SpaceX. So we'll be keeping an eye on that timeline to see if they have confirmed we are stepping into that or not. But as I said, that large venting that we are seeing is generally a really great sign that they are stepping towards a fueling opportunity. And there we Okay, we do have a tweet from them, and somehow it tweeted 7 minutes ago, but it only just went out to the public right now. We are go for propellant loading. So yes, we are confirmed now stepping in to a propellant loading opportunity here, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that. It does look like SpaceX has stepped back that they'll start their broadcast 30 minutes before liftoff here today, not the 45 minutes like they did yesterday. Sounds like we might not get a guest appearance by Nicki Minaj then. They're going to roll out a little bit of time. They already played most of their videos yesterday. So we will see. But confirmation there from SpaceX. Teams are go for propellant loading, and we are stepping in to a second launch attempt for Starship Flight 12, the first ever flight of the Starship V3 booster, and for the Super Heavy, and for this brand new pad. If you haven't yet, take a moment, share the stream, invite people to join us. We're answering your guys' questions. You can keep sending those in the chat by tagging me at the Launchpad, and I'll do my very best on answering those live for you guys as long as we deem them appropriate. We do try to keep the streams safe and fun for everyone. We do know teachers watch us in their school with their students, so keep in mind with your conversations and your chats that we are being watched in schools, and we try to keep it safe for everyone. Marcine is asking, is it in any way probable that some tests may expose fundamental Starship design flaws to preclude some variants from serving the designed all-around role, or is it Starship or bust? Well, it's not Starship or bust, but it is for SpaceX, right? Like they have put hundreds and they're past that. They have probably put tens of billions of dollars into Starship now between the money they've gotten from the government and what SpaceX has put in and what Elon's put in. They are in the tens of billions of dollars have been spent on the Starship program, and we have not had a successful orbital deployment yet. We have not even had an orbital test flight mission. So it is Starship or bust for SpaceX, I would say. But Starship has proven it works. Now they're at the part of making it reusable. And like I was saying earlier, if we wanted an expendable super heavy lift capability, we basically have it. It can do it right now. But because we want this reusable, that is why this is taking a lot longer. If you wanted to just do what Falcon 9 did, launch, but on a huge scale, launch super heavy things to space, theoretically, Starship can do that already. Not perfectly every time, we're still testing, but we are, getting closer to that. But does that mean that we will see different variants of Starship? Absolutely. Will some variants maybe not work? It's possible. They'll have to go through structural testing. There's a lot of pressure that goes on this vehicle during flight because of its size. And if you want it reusable, are there versions that maybe will never be reusable? That's absolutely possible. We'll just have to keep a close eye on that. And that's ultimately decisions SpaceX will have to make. You guys like the music behind me? I mean, I can have a little bit of music behind me. I just don't want it overpowering me. So let me know if you guys like the little bit of music in the back when we don't have the pad sounds. Let me know. I'm happy to keep those keep that excitement going. We are keeping an eye on that timeline. Ship locks load expected to begin 6 minutes 40 seconds from now. Marcine asking, will you be covering the spacewalk on the ISS on the 27th? That is the plan. We do have our 24/7 ISS coverage where you can listen in to station-to-ground communications around the clock from the International Space Station and see 2 live cameras on board looking back at the Earth. So you can always follow along and listen in to what's happening up there. And we will have special coverage for that spacewalk as well. It is a Russian spacewalk, but there will still be coverage of that. Whether we understand every single word they say might not be necessarily true, but we will still be live for sure with the live views from the cameras on board the cosmonauts that will be stepping out of the space station for a spacewalk. I do not have off the top of my head what they will be doing on that spacewalk just yet, because I've been heads down into Starship and some other stuff behind the scenes. But that is happening on the 27th. SpaceX confirmed that, or SpaceX, excuse me, NASA confirmed that earlier today, that spacewalk will be recurring. If you're just joining us, welcome. We are now just 5 minutes away from LOX load beginning on Starship S-39. This is the first of 4 checkpoints that begin the propellant loading for ship and booster. First, the ship will begin getting liquid oxygen, then the booster gets its fuel, and then the ship begins loading its fuel. And then all 4 propellants, well, there's 2 propellants, but all 4 things will be loading at the same time. And then once we have propellant load complete, the booster, will load complete first, 40 minutes, 30 seconds from now. And then just a few seconds later, the ship will be propellant load complete as well. We are hoping the views clean up a little bit more for you guys. It is starting to get a little bit crisper on the camera shots that we've got. We're hoping these clear up more by it. If you step outside with a large fan, aim it towards Starbase, and maybe we can just all blow the haze away. So keep an eye on that. I just explained it, Ross. So just rewind. If you've just got your headphones, rewind about 30 seconds. But hopefully the haze will separate off a little bit more. I will be able to see that, but we will be patching SpaceX in as well. So don't worry, you'll have their incredible live views while we give commentary and they give commentary as well. But we'll be keeping a close eye on everything as we progress towards flight here today. Let me know if that music audio is good for you guys. It's good for me. It's always fun to have a little bit of tunes, give a little energy to the day. It's an exciting day. Phantom, sadly, I don't think my desk fan will fit there from Scotland. Well, if you blow really hard through the fan, maybe it'll accelerate enough. Crazy says, I have a feeling today is going to be interesting. I do too. It will be exciting. Michael, thank you for saying that. I do appreciate it. LOX, we use a lot of acronyms. So if I ever say an acronym and you guys don't think you know what it means, please do ask. I'm more than happy to say that. It slips mine that we're so used to it. LOX, LOX, is liquid oxygen. RP1 is rocket grade kerosene. A few other ones you'll hear today. MECO is main engine cutoff. We won't actually see all the main engines cut off on the booster. We'll see most of them, but we still call it MECO. SECO is second engine cutoff. We normally see that with Falcon 9. I guess technically you could say SECO is also ship engine cutoff. We will see the ships have cutoff, and technically the ship is second stage, so it kind of works universally. Max Q, that's the moment of peak mechanical stress on the vehicle. Think of a pop can. You can stand on a pop can when it's closed because it's pressurized and sealed. If you pop open that can, it loses all structural stability. Rockets are basically the exact same thing. Marcine asking what was the origin of yesterday's scrub. It was a pin on the quick disconnect arm that didn't allow the arm to swing out of the way. We've got the poll in the chat. If you haven't yet, take a moment, make sure you answer it. How do you think the launch will go today? Do you think we won't go? Do you think we'll see a run in flight? Do you think we'll have booster splashdown, but the ship will break up on reentry? Or do you think we'll see a successful splashdown of both the ship and the booster? Right now, again, really amazing to see you guys kind of voting the exact same way between the two different streams. 52% thinking we will see booster and ship splashdown, 30% thinking we're not going to fly today, and then about 18-ish% thinking we will see some sort of breakup or RUD in flight. Oh, RUD. There's another acronym. Rapidly Unscheduled Disassembly, or AKA thing went boom. We hope we don't see the R word or the S word here today. But S's are better than R's. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat. And as you can see on the timeline on the left side of your screen, we should have stepped in to ship locks load at this time. We are waiting for SpaceX to begin their live coverage. And once they do, we will, of course, patch them in and listen in to SpaceX for an update on how the timeline is progressing as we get closer and closer to Flight 12, the first flight of the V3 Starship and Super Heavy booster. We're expecting them to go live in about 5 minutes from now. If you were to stack ship from top to bottom, how many ships would make the height of one booster? I'd have to do the rough math. Maybe someone in a back channel can try to do that for me if possible, or if one of you guys want to. They're not equivalent in height, but they're not far off. They're pretty close. So it's not like 3 ships to one booster. It's not 50-50, but it's pretty close. Seeing somebody saying it's Sarah's birthday. If so, happy birthday, Sarah. Great to have you here. Hopefully you get a launch for your birthday. It's always exciting. A birthday launch or Christmas launch or New Year's launch. Can't beat it. You guys haven't yet, take a moment, share out the stream, invite people to join us. We're about to step into propellant loading on the booster. And that is why you can see that venting around the ship and the tower here has really started to calm down, because the fuel is no longer being kind of vented. It is being put into the launch vehicles. So that's why you're seeing different type of venting now coming from there. But you can't even see the orbital launch pad right now, but you can see there on the ship is currently getting its liquid oxygen, and we will keep a close eye on it. Hopefully we'll see those frost lines start to develop here in the next couple of minutes, and even with the haze and kind of the grayness of this, we should still be able to see those lines start to appear on the screen. For those just joining, you are looking at a live view of Starbase Texas, basically as far south as you can go in Texas before you touch Mexico. This is the next generation launch site built by SpaceX for the world's most powerful, largest rocket. And every year or so, it gets bigger. This is V3. V4 has already been announced. V4, believe it or not, will be 15 to 25% taller. It is still growing, which is really quite incredible. Sis the First says, really love your coverage, TLP. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Patrick, will we be able to see a fireball? I hope not. Marcin, they are lighting this on their own turf always for the testing, always right. Right now they are building a pad at 39A. They're building 2 pads at Slick 37 at Cape Canaveral. There's a bunch of other pads expected to be built around the world over the next couple of years. Rumors of ones coming to Louisiana in the next couple of years as well, a new launch site on the Gulf. So we're keeping a close eye on that. But so far, all Starship testing has been done at Starbase. Crest, what time is launch? Launch is targeting 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern time. They do have a 90-minute window, though, so they do have time there. But with them stepping into propellant loading, generally speaking, that does lock us in more to the time. Once they are fully loaded, they can only stay at the T-minus 40-second hold mark for a set period of time. So that's what happened yesterday. They ran out of time to try to troubleshoot. They think they needed to send people out there, so we didn't fly yesterday. But let's say it was a software thing. If they could have held longer, they might have tried to fix it. But there is a max amount of time they can hold at that T-minus 40-second mark once they are fully fueled. Pamela saying TLP is always the best. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for saying that. I try my best. I've got an incredible team. I'm so grateful for everyone on the team. And if you guys are interested in joining that team, if you believe that inspiring the next generations of explorers and you have a passion for space flight, definitely take a moment now or before the launch or after the launch. Nightbot just put it in there. Our application's open if you'd like to join the team. Maybe you want to join me as a launch commentator. Maybe you want to be a rocket chaser because you do photo or video and you live near a launch site. Maybe you want to help keep our social media or the YouTube chats clean and friendly for everyone as a moderator. Or maybe you have a passion for journalism and writing and you want to be a journalist for TLP Space News that we're launching this summer. Or you want to be a correspondent for us live on site at different locations as a news correspondent. Definitely take a moment, fill that in. Lots of places available. Help make TLP possible. This isn't possible without our incredible crew. I know I get the fame of it, but it is an incredible crew that make this possible, and I shine it all back to them. Lord Falcon's Word, or Lord Falcon Sword, $5 super chat. Thank you so much for sending that in. Thanks so much for what I consider the cleanest space launch feed out there. Everyone else seems to only do this to hear themselves talk. Well, thank you, Lord. I appreciate that. We all do what we do. We do it differently. And I believe I really like how we do it. And even as we expand, we want to find people that fit kind of the model that we do, which is not easy to do. We don't do this for the fame of it. We do this to bring spaceflight to everyone, to make it accessible and understandable to everyone. And we can only do that thanks to your guys' support. So thank you so much for sending in that super chat. I really do appreciate that. We are working on some of the cameras, trying to get them a little bit cleaner for you guys, maybe a little bit of a better view before we have liftoff here. We are waiting for SpaceX to kick off their live stream. It's doing the typical X thing where it's sort of starting, but not really starting. So we'll patch that in here in just a second as we get ready to count down 32 minutes, 10 seconds, and counting till launch of Starship Flight 12 from Starbase, Texas. An exciting day in the future of the Starship program. Marcin sending go, go, go as a super chat. Thank you so much for sending that in. I appreciate that. And thank you for being a member. You see some of those custom launch modes like go, no go, scrub, rud, different things. You can become a TLP member, just 99 cents a month. Gets you access to those custom launch emotes. Since those cameras are set by yourself, how do you do it? We have an incredible team that has deployed cameras, and we're working on deploying more around the world. A huge thank you to our crew member, John, who helps maintain and have the Starbase cameras down there. I can't share all the secret sauce, but a lot goes into it. And we are working on expanding a lot more in the next year or so. And that's only thanks to your guys' support. Like I was saying, we brought Luna on board at TLP and are building out a production van. That also wasn't possible without our incredible community. So a huge thank you to everyone for that. Split off into the 4 screens so you guys can see SpaceX has now gone live. So once they begin their commentary, we'll listen in for an update, see how the timeline's progressing. But as you can see, we are officially in locks and fuel load of both ship and booster. We are fully in propellant loading. Raptor chill on both the ship and the booster, expected to begin just under 9.5 minutes from now. We are 30 minutes, 45 seconds and counting till launch.
And welcome back to Starbase, Texas. It's currently 5:01 p.m. Central Time, and we are just 28 and a half minutes away from the first flight of SpaceX's next generation vehicle, Starship version 3. Yesterday's launch attempt was scrubbed due to a hydraulic pin on the pad tower that wouldn't retract. But good news, the teams were able to resolve that issue, and we're proceeding ahead with attempt number 2 and blue skies to boot. I'm Kate Tice, Senior Manager of Quality Systems Engineering.
And I'm Jake Berkowitz, a Lead Propulsion Engineer. And today we're coming to you live once again from just outside the production floor at Star Factory, where the team's preparing for Starship's 12th test flight.
Yeah, yesterday was certainly a nail biter as we recycled to the T-minus 40 second hold a couple of times. And while we unfortunately weren't able to lift off, keep in mind that this is the first flight of a completely redesigned vehicle. So we actually learned a lot in what became a wet dress rehearsal yesterday.
Yeah, that's right. And Starship version 3 has undergone significant upgrades, taking everything we've learned from the previous 11 flights to make a vehicle capable of full and rapid reusability.
We're debuting a new launch pad, new booster, new ship, and new engines, just to name a few.
Yeah, that's right. And as a member of the Raptor team, I can tell you we're all super excited to finally see the newest generation of Raptor engines, also V3, take flight today.
I love that view looking up under the Super Heavy. Now, Raptor and Starship version 3 are designed to enable us to send payloads and eventually people all the way to the moon and Mars.
Yeah, and in the meantime, we're planning to put Starship to work on future flights by launching bigger and more powerful Starlink version 3 satellites, which aim to substantially increase capacity in orbit, strengthen the network, and deliver an improved experience for customers.
Now, turning our attention back to today, our primary objective for Flight 12 is to put these new redesigns all together in a real live flight environment. From the outside, a lot might look familiar on Starship, but beneath the surface, it's all new. As we've said before, Starship is still a developmental program. What we're doing today is a test. We launch to learn, and we test like we fly.
Yeah, and it's really the data we're expecting to get back from today's flight that will bring us closer to making Starship operational and unlocking the next generation of our future in space. So, no matter the outcome of today's test flight, excitement is guaranteed.
Now let's head a couple floors upstairs where Dan Hewitt is just outside our Launch Control Center. How's it going up there today, Dan?
It's going great, Kate. Everybody, welcome back for round 2. I'm Dan Hewitt with SpaceX Communications. We're looking good for a launch today. Do you want to do a quick summary, though, of what we saw yesterday, how we got back to launch? It's a really good example of all of the different moving parts that have to work together to get a rocket off the pad. About halfway up that tower, you see an arm that holds all of the propellant connections into the ship. It's also set up so it kind of pushes against the ship to help make sure that we have a really good connection and it stays attached when we unlatch that quick disconnect. There's a pin in the arm near where that attaches to the tower that has to be removed before the arm can swing away for launch. It's important to remember there's a lot of benefit to not release the arm too early or too late, and a lot of hardware that has to work in concert in very, very short time frames. We started to unpin it. Releasing that tension caused some motion in the arm that triggered a hold, and that put the pin back in. Then that got us into a bit of a tug of war between systems on the tower that rely on hydraulic pressure to work. Really, the arm trying to keep its pressure on the ship and trying to pull that pin out. You saw we made a couple of attempts to fix the issue, eventually got the pin to start retracting again, but hit the same motion hold. Ultimately ran out of time. The team, though, made some hardware, some software changes to get us into a better position to fly today. We had the tower team up there last night. They welded in some hardware that's going to cut down on the motion of the arm as it's pushing back when the pin's released. And getting all the data we saw on how this hardware interacts in those critical moments, went in, looked at our software, all of our logic, see where we were overly conservative, where we may have had holds built on the wrong readings or the wrong times. Overall, though, really fast work by the engineering teams put us in a position for flight today. Heroic work by our logistics teams to get all the propellant out there. But things are looking really good for launch at the moment. Right behind me, all of the flight controllers on console, looking at the rocket, looking at the pad, looking at the range, all the systems as we count down to liftoff. Propellant load is underway. You can see the rocket getting frosty. We're on track to launch at the top of our window at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Weather has been gorgeous. Thank you to everybody who was outside yelling at clouds that got us weather yesterday. It extended into today, and we are looking at a green range right now. Functionally, today's countdown, identical to yesterday, looks very similar to previous Starship flight tests. Some minor differences in timing on things like when we start propellant load, when the water starts flowing on the diverter, when our engines start up. But all the hardware is new booster, new ship, new engines, new pad. Let's do another quick look at everything that's debuting today with Starship version 3. As Kate noted, some of the outside will look familiar, but we've made extensive upgrades across the entire system. Big picture, because Starship's still very, very big. It's just over 407 feet tall, fully stacked, a little bit taller than version 2, have more propellant in both stages. On the bottom half, our super heavy booster has some visible structural changes on the outside. On its top, we've got an integrated hot stage now, got rid of the one-time use one, so we're doing that for reusability. The ship's Raptor engines are going to be igniting directly into the top of the booster. That's where you're looking right now. All of that force and heat offset by the pressure inside the booster's fuel tank and a thin layer of non-structural steel. The grid fins on the booster, which we used to steer on descent, went from 4 down to 3, but we made them 50% larger. Higher strength, also use them for lift, and we'll use them for catch on future missions when we bring the booster back. We redesigned the fuel transfer tube inside the booster. That's what's sending all of that massive amount of liquid methane down to those 33 engines, lets us light all 33 at the same time and have faster, more reliable flips. The bottom of the booster looks very different with those Raptor 3 engines. We deleted all of the bulky engine shrouds from previous generations, all of the prop, avionics hardware, everything for that super tightly integrated now, protected by much slimmer shielding. Up on the second stage, Starship version 3 designed to carry massive orbital payloads up to 100 metric tons to Earth orbit, the Moon, and Mars. Biggest changes inside the vehicle itself. Propulsion system got a complete redesign, increased our propellant take volume, improved our steering on orbit. In the payload bay, the PEZ dispenser is supercharged. That's going to increase the deploy speed for each of our satellites. We've got 22 payload deployables in there today. It's the heaviest we've ever carried on Starship. Eventually, we'll have up to 60 planned of those Starlink V3 satellites. Also on the ship, we added docking ports. There's 2 right below the payload bay door, 2 near the bottom. That's going to enable us to have Starships link up in orbit for propellant transfer. Also modified the connection point in the ship to facilitate that. So a lot of upgrades tip to tail, and still powering it all is the Raptor 3. Now, those engines are manufactured in Hawthorne, California, tested in McGregor, Texas, redesigned their ignition system, bumped up the thrust in the sea level and the vacuum engines, and then took all of the sensors, feed lines, controllers, everything that was kind of the busy sections around Raptors 1 and 2, and either deleted them or internally integrated and protected them inside the engine. That dramatically cut down on the weight, made it easier for those to manufacture. So, just an incredible amount of effort from the world's best engineering team getting this rocket to the pad, ready to launch today. I'm going to stop talking for a little bit. That was a lot. Send it back down to Kate and Jake for more on Pad 2.
Yeah, so like Dan was just saying, the team has been working hard on a brand new rocket, but we also redesigned the ground systems. And that brand new Pad 2 is making its debut today.
We took everything we learned from operating on Pad 1 to create this totally new launch pad. Pad 2 is optimized for full and rapid reusability. We've upgraded our propellant farm with much more storage and more pumps to enable super fast filling for launch and relaunch. And on the tower, we changed to shorter chopsticks. That's the black assembly there at the top of the tower, and that enables even faster motion to better track vehicles flying in for catch.
Yeah, and we also changed the actuators driving those chopsticks from hydraulics to 100% electromechanical, increasing their speed, redundancy, and reliability. On the ground, the launch mount was also completely redesigned, and if I had to describe it in one word, I'd say robust. But it's also smarter. We've separated the fuel and aux systems into different compartments and repositioned the booster quick disconnects to be out of the vehicle's plume during liftoff.
And as you can see there on your screen, we also have a new bidirectional flame diverter and a new top deck flame deflector to eliminate metal wearing down. So we said goodbye to the pancake. However, this will help us get to zero refurbishment between launches. Now, this pad is still built for maximum safety and fast turnaround because making life multiplanetary will require launching a lot of Starships. Now, it's currently T-minus 18 minutes and 38 seconds. We're going to hop over to Hawthorne for a moment for more on Starlink with Tyler Lionquist. Tyler?
Hey, Kate, thank you so much. I'm Tyler Lionquist, and I'm a Starlink business analyst here at SpaceX. We're excited to be back here in Hawthorne, ready for another attempt at a launch today. So as we talked about yesterday, on today's flight, we're deploying 20 Starlink simulators, plus 2 modified Starlink satellites, which our team internally refers to as Dodger Dogs, because they stretch the V2 mini satellite propellant tank so that it sticks out from both ends of the satellite. And the Dodger Dog serves as a tech demo between the V2 and the V3 Starlink satellites, and acts as a platform for testing V3 components. Now, the larger V3 satellites aim to greatly expand our network's capacity, while V3 hardware is designed to support faster Wi-Fi and improved broadband speeds for our customers while providing significant capacity upgrades from the V2 Mini. So, in addition to delivering future V3 satellites to the Starlink network, Starship is also planned to launch our AI satellites. And as you may have seen during the TerraFab event in Austin a few months ago, Elon laid out the path to revolutionize cloud computing and AI infrastructure, leveraging the unlimited power of the sun, targeting 100 gigawatts to 1 terawatt of AI computing power annually. And from there, we're looking at connectivity beyond our planet too. Building on the technologies used to connect people on Earth, the Starlink team is exploring using Starlink to enable high bandwidth connectivity around the moon. With a constellation of satellites designed to connect to user terminals on the lunar surface, we could relay data back to our Starlink constellation in Earth orbit. So traditionally, deep space comms have relied on radio frequency transmission. But this new design would use lasers to relay data back to Earth, which can massively increase the bandwidth available to future lunar missions. We currently have thousands of lasers operating in our Starlink constellation around Earth, and deploying that technology around the moon could connect it with hundreds of terabits of capacity. Together, this could provide the connectivity backbone between the Earth and the moon, and enable gigabit connectivity anywhere on the lunar surface, providing data for rovers, habitats, and astronauts, and hopefully some incredible views for us back on Earth too. So all of that adds up to a lot of satellites, but the good news is there's still plenty of space in space. That said, the Starlink team takes space safety extremely seriously and works hard to encourage best practices across the entire industry so space stays open for as many people as possible. In fact, just yesterday, the Starlink team published a new update on Starlink.com to encourage all satellite operators to better coordinate and follow best practices to keep space safe. So for more on safety, go to starlink.com/updates. And with that, let's kick it back over to Kate and Jake and Starbase for today's mission profile.
Thanks, Tyler. Now let's dive into the flight profile for today's test. As we've mentioned already, a couple of times, there are numerous redesigns making their debut today across the entire launch vehicle. In light of this, we want to keep our learning focused on all of that new hardware and software. So we're running a flight profile that's similar to past Starship flights in order to minimize any new variables.
Yeah, that's right. So as always, we start with liftoff, where Super Heavy ignites 33 of those brand new Raptor 3 engines. We power through ascent ahead of hot stage separation, where the booster shuts down all but 5 sustainer engines. Stage 2 then lights its Raptor engines while still attached to Super Heavy, where we see stage separation, debuting the integrated hot stage, directional booster flip, and engine relight for boost back using 33 engines. And after coasting for a few minutes, the booster today will target a landing burn and soft splashdown a few miles off from the coast of Starbase.
Ship keeps it going with ascent burn to a suborbital trajectory. Then we'll deploy 20 Starlink simulator satellites and 2 Dodger Dogs, as we affectionately call them. We also plan to relight a single Raptor engine. Next will be re-entry a few minutes later. For the first time in a while, we're intentionally not messing with Starship's heat shield. At that point, we should have some amazing views of the ship's Technicolor re-entry through Earth's atmosphere. If all of that goes as planned, we'll finish the test with a landing flip, a landing burn, and a soft water splashdown in the Indian Ocean. And in just a few moments, thanks to Starlink, we'll be going live to the Indian Ocean and chatting once again with the ship recovery team stationed out there.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. That's going to be totally awesome. But sit tight because first we're going to go to Dan for a quick status check.
Yep. Hey, everybody. Good news. Still looking good. Range is green currently. We're expecting another update on that in just about 4 minutes. That should be our final determination. Weather continues to look amazing. Vehicle and pad both looking healthy. And then a little more than 2/3, it's looking like on booster. So we are on track today, looking good for a launch right now at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. All right, so we're going to do that right at the top of our window. Once again, though, we're going to be targeting to send Starship around the world for a splashdown in the Indian Ocean. We had a really quick check-in yesterday with the Starship recovery team out there on station. They're helping us to maintain the range and a whole lot more. So let's jump back out there once more today. We've got Suren Sunai joining us live from the boat deck out in the Indian Ocean, a couple 100 miles off the coast of Australia. Suren, how's it going, man? Welcome to the Flight 12 webcast. How's everything looking out there in the landing zone?
Dan, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm not going to lie to you, it's a little rougher than it was yesterday. Nighttime, it's hard to see the horizon, but we're looking at about 10-foot seas, and we're loving it, but it's rough.
All right, what's your guys' primary job out there? I mean, you're out kind of in the middle of nowhere. What are you guys doing?
So, like as you mentioned, like it's usually a 500 to 600 nautical mile sail from shore. And our primary goal is as a range clearing group. So like we come out here and make sure there's no one else in the area so the rocket can launch. But that kind of allows us to do our second goal, which is to conduct imagery of the rocket as it re-enters and as it splashes down. We get a lot of other data, but like the primary one is for sure imagery with an ensemble of maritime and aerial-based assets.
And talk to us a little bit, because it's evolved over time, kind of humble beginnings of getting those views, to talk us through where we've gotten to now today.
Yeah, I think some people know, but like the Markset bots are quite identifiable. That's the buoys that we use. And they were originally used as sailboat racers. And we kind of put them in as a Hail Mary attempt on Flight 5 to get imagery of the rocket as it came down. And we all thought it maybe would have worked, but we were super shocked and really pleased to see all of the buoys pointed right at the rocket as it came down, which was a testament to not only the scrappy engineering we were able to put together, but also the rocket's ability to land right on target. And then since then, we've kind of iterated more and more, and these buoys have become way more robust and have now a lot more data collection materials, not just visual imagery. And as a result, they kind of are the most mature versions they've ever been. And it's really cool because almost all the buoys that we're deploying even now for Flight 12, we just got them off our back deck a few hours ago, are the exact same ones that were used for Flight 5.
And I saw a couple of user terminals. How's Starlink kind of playing a role in this entire operation?
Dan, I'm not gonna lie to you. If we didn't have Starlink out here, we would be screwed. Like just on like a usual basis of like working, we're allowed to like have calls with each other and like work on documents with each other, send things to each other in like a very timely manner because of the Starlink on the boat. But not only that, each one of these buoys is equipped with a standard Starlink Mini, the one you would just get from like ordering it commercially, and that allows us to not only operate the buoy remotely, but also to get live stream data and telemetry, which is honestly super useful, and I don't think we have another solution for it without Starlink.
All right, before I let you go, what's it like? You're out there and then all of a sudden Starship appears out of the sky. What's that feel like, man?
Dan, I can't lie to you, it feels awesome. Just like being on the boat, not seeing any land for miles and miles, and then hearing the Starship crack down with its sonic booms and watching it breach through the sky, it is one of the most magical feelings on Earth, and really excited to feel that again today.
All right, well, thanks, Suren. Good luck, man. Hopefully we're sending a rocket your way real soon. Thanks for joining us in, man. I'm going to send it now back down to Kate and Jake for the latest progress we're making at Cape Canaveral in Florida.
Thanks, Dan. Now, if we want to get to the moon and then Mars as fast as possible, there's really only one answer, and it's to launch a lot more rockets.
Yeah, and to do that, we're going to need a few more launch pads and support buildings. which is exactly what we're working on over in Florida. So originally built for Apollo and then the Space Shuttle, Launch Complex 39A has flown 126 Falcon missions since SpaceX reactivated the pad in 2017.
Yeah, I actually remember the day that we did that. I was able to host the live webcast for that first launch out of Pad 39A, and it was just so amazing to see that pad come back to life. And it's also exciting to see how today, almost 10 years later, the ongoing construction, as you see there on your screen, and the development that will bring a second launch tower to Launch Complex 39A. It's designed to expand our capabilities to support Starship launches in the future, while also continuing to support Falcon Heavy missions from the original Apollo Shuttle Falcon launch tower.
Yeah, and we're not done. We're also building a Starship launch pad at Slick 37. And to support the uptick in future launches, there's Gigabay, a giant assembly and maintenance facility designed to prep Starships ahead of Florida launches. And when complete, this huge structure aims to hold 24 work cells in over 800,000 square feet of workspace. It's going to be a big building.
So much space.
So yeah, SpaceX's future in Florida is quickly taking shape with our very first launches on the horizon.
Exactly. A horizon that aims for regular trips to the moon. And speaking of moon, we've got another special guest for you today. Dan, I think the last time you and I were on a webcast with this person was Polaris Dawn, as he was performing the very first commercial spacewalk.
That's right, Kate and Jared. I don't know if today will be quite as cool as doing a spacewalk, but we're going to try our best to make it as exciting. Like, thanks for joining us here today, man. You had a heck of an entrance on the way in.
It's great to be here. Yep, certainly great to do a little bit of a flyby. I think they should accompany all the great rocket launches, and we certainly got a great rocket out there on the pad. But wonderful to be back, and no surprise, it's always changing here. It looks amazing.
I was going to say, it's been a couple of years. What was your impression flying in? It just the lay of the land.
Well, I think it was actually maybe 10 months ago. I was here slinging pizzas. I got a new job now, but it was. There's been so much that's changed even since then. Yeah, the facilities look amazing. All the housing that's coming in here, and of course, you got 2 orbital launch pads out there and a rocket that's just looking fantastic, especially from the air. It's good.
Yeah, you said you got a new job. It's been a slow start to your first 6 months. I mean, you only sent humans around the moon for the first time since the Apollo days. Bill and I kind of nerded out a little bit. Like, that was the last thing I worked on when I was at NASA, so seeing them go was just insane. Like, how's everybody feeling after the success of Artemis 2?
Well, I'd say I have the best job in the world, and I certainly work with an unbelievable team. I mean, as you know, that mission was a long time in the making, so I got to show up at the right time to see everybody put all that effort to put it in action. But what a great mission. Those 4 astronauts, you couldn't have had better ambassadors for humankind to the stars. I mean, they really brought us all along for 10 days, and we're getting ready for what comes next. We're going to start stacking Artemis 3. We got a lot of the hardware in the VAB already. We're hoping to even get out to the pad before the end of the year, do another wet dress. So, all right. And we're looking forward to seeing this thing fly, because hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, we're gonna join up in Earth orbit.
Yeah, what's coming up next, and ultimately, like, based on the moon, that's the big focus. Like, what's kind of the why? Like, why are we doing this for everybody?
Oh, well, I mean, and yes, we're certainly trying to get back to the moon, but what's coming up next? We're also building a moon base in parallel. And why are we doing that? Well, it's for a lot of the shirts I see around here, which is Occupy Mars. I mean, what a great opportunity. Go to the moon, return to the moon, build a moon base on the South Pole, interact with the water ice, right? Maybe work on some of those skills we're going to need when we're 4 days away from home for what we might need someday when we're 9 months away from home. But we got other things coming up too. You got Nancy Grace Roman, that telescope's going to launch later this summer. There's a lot of great, exciting things going on at NASA right now.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, SpaceX, we're custom built to try and make life multiplanetary. We're super honored, excited to be part of this entire Artemis program. Really excited to see Starship, sending people to the moon, all of the different pieces working together. It's going to be a really exciting future.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me here. It's great to see everybody. Again, I know a lot of hard work leads up to a moment like this, so we're all rooting for you, and we're looking forward to meeting up next year in Earth orbit.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you jump back in there. We've got about 4 minutes to go. I'll just toss it back down to Kate and Jake.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say we could listen to you guys yap about the moon pretty much all day. It's so inspiring to hear about the future of exploration on the moon. And if you caught the show yesterday, you also heard some more future space exploration news.
Yeah, that's right. From-2 mission commander Chun Wang will be one of the first humans to become an interplanetary traveler. Don't think I've ever said that word before. While also joining Starship's first mission to fly past the moon.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Amazing. In fact, that Dragon capsule that you saw there was Dragon Resilience. That is the same Dragon spacecraft that Administrator Isaacman flew in both Inspiration 4 and Polaris Dawn. So it's a good one. Now, Dan, we're now coming back into a terminal count again. Anticipation is definitely growing as we proceed towards our second attempt. Once again, this is the first flight. We're aiming to fly for the first time, Starship version 3. Massive upgrades across the vehicle that you see at the pad there, as well as the pad itself.
The good news is we've had a pretty quiet countdown today. We are looking at a green range still, not tracking any issues with our weather, with the vehicle, or with the pad for a launch. We are now getting into the phase where we're closing out prop load on the ship, and then booster is going to close out in about 15 seconds or so. Once we're fully done with this, you're looking at 11.5 million plus pounds of liquid propellant on board Starship and Super Heavy. We're going to get the pad itself ready, push back all of the propellant that's in those lines running from the farm up to the launch mount, just kind of harden the area and get it ready for launch. We're going to peek inside, hopefully see the engines do a little wiggle as we do our final steering check. That'll happen at T-minus 100 seconds, and then after we get through T-minus 40. If you tuned in yesterday, you're very familiar. If we need to hold, we can go into what's called rapid recycle, essentially, where we can hang out at T-minus 40 seconds. It's built in. We're only going to hold if there's an issue, not currently tracking one. They can pop up after we pass T-minus 40, but right now we're looking good. Hopefully going to move right past that.
And then once we do pass T-minus 40 seconds, a number of events will occur in quick succession. That is when the QD vent gate, or quick disconnect vent gate, will clear the gas commodity lines that connect the pad to the vehicles. Both the ship and the booster will configure their comm systems for flight and will rapidly run leak checks on gas and fluid tanks. And the booster goes to internal power, and its engines will get their final priming for launch, while the ship's engines begin their ascent bleed profile and arms the automatic flight safety system.
Yeah, and once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, we still have the ability to rapidly recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds.
Looks like we might be getting some engine wiggles here, as Dan mentioned earlier. These allow us to check out the thrust vector control actuators on these engines. It's important to make sure that they can steer.
Yeah, that's definitely right. And flame diverter on pad 2 activates at around T-minus 17 seconds and enters what is essentially the point of no return at T-minus 10 seconds. If we have a hold close to T-minus 17 seconds, there's a chance we could recycle, but the closer we get to T-minus 10, the lower that chance becomes. We just heard we're at T-minus 1 minute.
Yeah, so at this point in time, we're going to stop talking. We're going to let the rocket take over and listen to some amazing pad sounds of the first flight of Starship version 3.
All right, we are holding. We were just waiting for the fuel pushbacks to complete into the prop farm. We did hear that that did just complete, so expecting them to reset that hold shortly. Clock, the hold is reset, clock is rolling.
Flight directors go for launch. Minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, ignition. We have liftoff.
Booster Raptor, chamber pressure nominal.
All right, we are T plus 30 seconds into flight, seeing 33 out of 33 Raptor 3 engines on booster V3, ascending over the Gulf now, coming up on maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Booster and ship, avionics power, telemetry nominal.
Systems looking good. We're just passing through the period of maximum dynamic pressure. A little over a minute into flight now. Vibrations chilling out here at Star Factory as we continue to watch Starship Flight 12 arc out over the Gulf. The next major thing coming up is going to be hot staging.
Booster prop systems nominal.
Reminder, we do what's our version of MECO. Most engines cut off, so we're going to shut down all but 5 of the Raptor engines on the booster. And then after that happens, we're going to ignite the 6 engines on ship while it is still attached. We have clamps that hold the 2 together. Those are going to retract inside of that hot stage ring, kind of protect them. Looks like we had 1 of the engines go out, still flying on 32 of the Raptor engines. But again, once we get the hot staging, those 6 engines on the ship are going to ignite. We're going to do it in a little bit different of a sequence on version 3. Essentially, those 3 RVAC engines will ignite first. Almost immediately after, just 1 of those central engines is going to ignite, and that's going to give the booster a bit of a kick, sending it in a known direction, followed shortly after by the other 2. We're through MECO.
Each separation.
There you go, successful hot staging separation. We are not seeing as many booster engines ignite as we expected for boost back, but we are seeing 6 good engines lit on ship. It looks like we just had an early boost back shutdown. Again, a reminder, the booster was planned to essentially head into the Gulf for a splashdown, but it has shut its engines down early on into boost back. And we just see 1 of the RVAC, so we're now running on 5 engines on ship. We do have engine out capability, so it's going to continue into its ascent. You got booster on the left there, ship on the right.
Ship, avionics power, and telemetry nominal.
Again, we are not planning on bringing the booster back for this flight, as this was the very first time. All right, so we're about 3 minutes, 50 seconds into today's flight. Just a reminder that the ship planned to burn its engines for about 8 minutes and change. About 8 minutes and 11 seconds was our planned timeline for today. That could shift slightly as we do have 1 engine out, running on 1 fewer RVACs. Again, continuing to watch. So booster did not complete its boost back burn. We did not see all of the engines ignite that we expected. Are continuing to get some views from it, though. That's going to make a splashdown somewhere in the Gulf. Reminder, we clear air, sea space, everything for these launches. All right, so we are coming up on T plus 5 minutes. Ship continuing to fire 5 of the 6. Standing by for callouts, making sure ship's on its planned trajectory. Again, we are planning a suborbital trajectory for the ship today. booster, giving us some views as it continues to make its way back down towards the water. All right, so a little over 5.5 minutes in flight. Kate, Jake, you guys with me? It looks like booster's starting to come in hot.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to stand outside to watch launch, and wow, that was incredible.
Yeah, that was really loud, really shaky, and I was actually surprised how fast the booster got off the pad, or the whole stack. That was quite incredible.
Absolutely. So we have views here from the booster coming back down, making its way into the Gulf. Pretty cool to see.
We have healthy chamber pressures on 5 out of 6 Ship Raptor engines.
Great news there
Landing
for
startup.
Starship. Once again, we were not going to bring the super heavy booster back to the tower. We were planning on having it land in the Gulf.
And it looks like the booster ended its mission there in the Gulf, but we've got a ship still flying. Great to see that. Still have 5 out of 6 engines there on S39.
Yes, we also heard good chamber pressures as well on those engines that are lit. We do have engine out capability. We do see that we have one of the RVAC, one of the Raptor vacuum engines that is currently out, but that's okay. Ship is continuing on. Amazing views of planet Earth there in the background.
Yeah, I love the S39 decal there. That just gives the ship a little bit of character. And again, all these great views brought to you by Starlink, of course.
Yeah, obligatory shout out to the entire Starship avionics, camera, electronics team. Did a whole lot of work to get these upgraded cameras. A look inside of the ship skirt, you can see those 3 center engines ignited. The RVAC's continuing to fire as well. We did see at least a couple engines fire up on booster for that landing burn before we lost contact with it. We should have just a little over 20 seconds to go. We'll see if the burn extends a little bit. For the engine out, essentially you can run your engines a little bit longer or throttle up a little bit more to account for the one engine not being lit. So right now we are standing by for SECO. And again, we are continuing to go a little bit longer. Five engines still burning on ship. We are coming up on T plus 9 minutes. And starting to see shutdown. RVACs have shut down. Sea levels have shut down. Seeing if we can get an update on the ship orbit insertion, but we have shut down again. We did run longer as we were engine out. We were flying with 5 of those 6 Raptors pretty much the whole time.
Ship FTS is saved.
All right, well, we definitely got a ship in space right now.
as you can see, the teams are incredibly excited to see Starship there in space. We are awaiting the call out of nominal insertion, so we're going to stand by for that. We can see the flaps moving here, actuating. But wow, the cheers here in the lobby are certainly almost as loud as liftoff was.
Yeah. Man, a lot of action going on. And, you know, we said at the top of the show, excitement guaranteed. And we're only 11 minutes in. We still have a lot more to go here on the mission today. So all objectives are done on the booster. So now all eyes are on the ship as we get ready for our in-space objectives.
Exactly. So like I said, we're still standing by to hear the call out for nominal orbital insertion, but we've got a few minutes before the next milestone. So we're going to continue. We've got some amazing views here of the ship. Wow, it's just that this is our planet. This is our home. As a reminder, the objectives for ship today not only included the separation that we saw, but we're also planning to deploy 20 Starlink simulator satellites, as well as 2 Dodger Dog satellites. That's what our internal teams refer to as our newer satellites. We saw a preview of those earlier. We should see those deployments here in a little bit. We're also hoping to perform a relight of a Raptor engine as well.
Yep, that's exactly right. And the relight will look a little bit different this time. We're hoping to get a little bit of a longer duration. Of course, we got to see once we get there. And that relight won't actually be changing our orbit necessarily, but we're doing it more so as a technology demonstration.
For those of you that maybe just recently tuned in, you missed a pretty exciting almost 13 minutes. We had a liftoff pretty much on time, almost right exactly at 5:30 p.m. We did have a brief hold at the T-minus 40-second period, but we were able to proceed through that, and we saw a gorgeous liftoff. Jake and I were able to stand outside and witness that with all of our colleagues, and what a moment. I'll tell you what, it is a heck of a lot louder out here than it was at Ad Astra.
Absolutely. And a couple things I noticed on the way uphill today on the ship. So obviously it looks like we lost one of the RVACs on the way, but that is a good way to demonstrate our potential engine out capability there. So
exactly.
I think we actually saw the 3 gimbaling engines kind of gimbal over a little bit to compensate for that offset and thrust. So that was really cool. That's something I know the team's been, we've analyzed that since Flight 1 all the way back. So it's something that we've thought about quite a bit, and it was kind of cool to see it in action in real life today.
Yeah, absolutely. If you couldn't tell, Jake is on the Raptor team.
Yeah. But one non-Raptor thing I noticed also back on the when we had the shot of the aft flaps, it's a little weird. We have tiles on the leeward side, so not on the side where we're going to see heating. And you might be asking, why are we putting tiles there? I had the same question actually. So I talked to some of our heat shield engineers the other day, and we're actually running. Yeah, here's the shot right here. Great. So the fact that we're seeing all these tiles still on the flap right now is really good, because that actually was one of our experiments where we wanted to test different connection methods on the way uphill on ship, so actually ascent. So it looks like most, if not all, the tiles are still hanging on there, so that's actually a really good data point.
Looks pretty good to me. Now, once again, this view is from the side of Starship, which is basically the second stage of the Starship vehicle as a whole. This is one of the flaps on the vehicle that helps to control its position and attitude as it is orbiting, and also helps to control during re-entry as well. That's a critical phase. I mentioned earlier that we're hoping to deploy those Starlink satellite simulators, as well as perform an in-space relight of a Raptor engine. If all of that goes well, we will be targeting a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean. We heard from Suren on the recovery team a little bit earlier. They are standing by waiting to receive the ship that we see here.
All right, let's send it upstairs. Dan, how's it looking?
Hey guys, we are looking good. It does look like we are within bounds of what we analyzed if we were down one of our RVAC engines. So I wouldn't call it nominal orbital insertion, but we're on a trajectory that we had analyzed, and it's within bounds. So team's continuing to work through it with that engine out. They're working through some steps on the engines. We probably will end up skipping the Raptor relight for today, but it sounds like we should still be on for payload deploy, at least at this time. So very dynamic moments right here with the ship, but we do have it in space. It is on a trajectory now, headed towards the other side of the planet, and then a splashdown in the Indian Ocean. It's going to start to get darker. We're heading into an orbital sunset, so we're gonna have darkness for a little bit, and then it'll brighten up once we're on the other side of the planet, and hopefully looking at some good daylight when we re-enter into the Indian Ocean. All right, so we're a little over 17 minutes into flight. If you're just now catching up with us, we did see a liftoff right at the top of our window. Super Heavy getting off the pad, initially lighting all 33 of those Raptor engines, got through a successful hot staging. Initially lit 6 engines on ship, had 1 RVAC go out on the way uphill, but still able to make it into space. And right now we're trying to see if we are going to get into payload deploy still. We're coming up right on the part of the timeline when we were expecting it. You look inside a Starship there. Oh, I see a door opening. Looks like Hal didn't wait. Pez door is open. Just a reminder, we've got 22 deployables in the payload bay today. 20 of those Starlink mass simulators, and then 2 are Dodger dogs, as we like to call them internally, sitting up their modified V2 Starlink satellites. Those are going to be testing a bunch of components that we're planning to fly on Starlink V3, and we've also got them outfitted with a number of cameras for another tech demo that we're trying out on this flight. We definitely are looking for a way that we can look at Starship's heat shield while it's still in space. You can kind of only see so much from the cameras and the flaps. You can't see everything kind of on the underbelly, and one of the only ways you can do that is if you got something else flying near it. So we're going to attempt to, our final 2 satellites going out the door have a suite of cameras on them that are going to be looking back at the ship. We're going to be in nighttime, and so we've got, sounds like we're getting into payload deploy. We'll be in nighttime. They've got some powerful flashlights on them to try and illuminate the ship's heat shield while we fly away from it. So we see some Pez motion. Two down, 20 to go. As a reminder, that's one of the things that we upgraded in version 3, kind of gave a little soup up to the PEZ dispensers, so those satellites going to move out a little bit quicker than they did on previous Starship flight tests. So first 2 out the door, 2 more on their way out. All right, 4 down, 18 to go. Flexing my basic math skills here today. Again, the majority of this stack, 20 of these 22 satellites, they're essentially just mass simulators, so they're roughly the same size as those Starlink V3 sats that we're hoping to fly later this year. And from this top-down view, so you're looking down at the stack, those 2 satellites you see on the very top, that they'll look very different. They've got solar arrays. They've got a bunch of other deployables on them that we're going to be testing out that are going to be V3 tech, and they've got 3 engineering cameras and then 1 other camera that's hopefully going to be giving us some views of Starship in space. But we will see how that works. Again, this very much a tech demo. We're going to deploy those. The satellite's going to kind of try and turn everything on, look back at Starship, and the primary reason we're trying to do this is to get some views of the heat shield. All right, 2 more out the door.
2 more out the door, and I think that counts, or that comes up to 8 total.
As you can tell, the teams are stoked to see this demonstration happening. It's pretty incredible to see this happening live from space. Now, as we noted earlier in the show, but worth repeating, this Starship, version 3, is built to deploy up to 60 of Starlink's more advanced V3 satellites. Everything's V3. Designed to offer 60 terabits per second of downlink capacity per satellite. Now, that is 20 times more than each Falcon 9 does today. Incredible.
All right, I think that's number 10 going out the door. Yeah, there it goes. So yeah, the camera view you have on your left screen there is basically right at the bottom of the payload volume. So the kind of dome-shaped structure you see there that's actually the top of the fuel tank.
Then the camera view that you have on the right is an external camera that we have positioned so that you can see basically the light through the open PEZ dispenser door that you see. That's that sliver of light. We can see the Starlinks here deploying as each one comes through. As we mentioned, we have 20 of these Starlink simulator satellites, and then we have 2 of these specially modified, as we call them, Dodger dogs here around here. Those, as Dan mentioned earlier, they have some V3 tech on them, some solar arrays, and those will be the last 2 that will be deployed today.
Yeah, that's right. And seeing this, as I think Dan called them turbocharged or supercharged PEZ dispenser, it's definitely coming out much faster than our previous flights. So that is really good to see. Yeah, look at that. And especially once we, fill Starship up all the way with around 60 or so of these Starlinks, being able to deploy them fairly expediently is going to be important for designing the overall mission profile.
Yeah. Now, fans of Starship may know that Starlink enables lots of unprecedented views, both from space, as we see here, and on Earth. In addition to the dozens of cameras on Starship itself, we also have mobile Starlink camera kits deployed in the Indian Ocean.
Yes, Starlink also connects our aerial cinematography units on the ground at Starbase and at other strategic camera spots around Texas.
It's all part of how it all comes together to tell the incredible story of Starship both on and off planet.
Yep.
All right, we're getting low on the stack. It looks like we got 2 more of those simulators to go out, and then it will be time for our Dodger Dogs, those modified Starlink satellites. Just a couple of updates while we continue to watch payload deploy. Did get confirmation we're going to be skipping that relight of the Raptor engine, just due to everything that we saw on the way uphill. Those sea level engines, we're going to use them for a landing burn, though. They are still capable to be used for that. So we'll still look to do a controlled landing in the Gulf, but no in-space relight. All right, I think that's 19 and 20 headed out the door. And then coming up are our Dodger Dogs. So these are modified V2 Starlink satellites. We do have a number of cameras on these that are going to attempt to look back at Starship. We're not going to get this video in real time, but we're going to try and turn it around if we do get some video down. So don't worry, if we get views of Starship from these satellites, we will be sharing. And these will be exciting because, again, they're really a tech demo, getting our chance to test out some of the technologies for version 3. All right, I think that's 18 and 20. My basic math skills are failing now. All right, here we go.
We're standing by for Starship, basically to serve the first Dodger Dogs to low Earth orbit.
And one out the door. And from this view, you can kind of see on the right side of the satellite, you see some bright white spots. Those are our flashlights. Beneath them, the camera is going to attempt to look back and image Starship's heat shield as it flies slowly away from the vehicle. And there it goes. Let there be light.
Yeah, it almost looks like the light is just shining right at us there.
If you couldn't tell, we're pretty excited.
Yeah.
It is always sunny in space.
Always sunny in space, and that looks like an empty payload bay. So
Sure does.
That's exactly what you want to see there. That's great. So yeah, with payload deploy complete. Oh, you can see the door closing there. All right, there we go. So yeah, with payload deploy complete, Starship will now close its... yeah, Starship, we closed the payload door, and we're going to continue to coast around Earth all the way to the Indian Ocean. So still a lot of major events to come today. Sounds like we're not going to hit that Raptor relight based on what Dan was saying, but after that, of course, we'll have the atmospheric reentry and splashdown. And with that, we're going to go on another quick coast.
So sit tight, enjoy some amazing space views and the space jams, of course. And we'll be back in a few minutes for Raptor relight, or excuse me, not for the relight, but we'll be standing by for atmospheric reentry.
And if you are just joining us, welcome here to the Launchpad. T plus 30 minutes into flight. You're going to want to rewind those 30 minutes. What an incredible day for the Starship program. Not perfect. We unfortunately did lose the booster. Some engines failed during the initial boost back burn. Some of them did ignite for that booster splashdown burn, but ultimately the booster was lost and it did not boost back to the designated site. It splashed down further downrange in the Gulf of America. Starship continued on its ascent. Unfortunately, it also experienced an engine anomaly, losing one of its Raptor vacuum engines. But Starship has flight capability where it can burn the other engines longer to counter that. Now, it is not in the exact orbit that they were necessarily hoping for, but they are hopeful that they'll be still able to have a really great mission, test all the objectives, everything but that relight that they have now decided not to do. And I don't know if that's the sun or the light from one of the satellites. It is possible it is one of the satellites, and they are closing that flap possibly to get a view. This is me speculating, but if those two satellites, big day, Starship has officially deployed its first ever operational satellites. These are tech demonstration satellites. These are not Starlinks. These are built on a kind of a body of a Starlink, but they have cameras on them that they are hopefully having active right now, taking some incredible views of Starship. Now, keep in mind, these satellites are getting further and further away, so they want them to turn on as fast as they can to get some incredible views. But I'm pretty confident we'll at least get one picture from them. This is SpaceX. They know what they're doing. I bet we'll get one picture back at minimum, or a video of Starship floating free in space, and that is going to be truly, truly incredible. We are now about 15, is that 15? Yeah, 15 minutes, 52 seconds away from what we expected to be atmospheric interface. Now, keeping in mind, we did have that that one engine failure that we do not know if the timeline is exactly right. SpaceX has internal timelines. Obviously, we haven't updated them. SpaceX is giving us this live tracking map. That's the first time that they've done this for Starship, so that's really amazing. So thank you to SpaceX for providing that we can have a much better idea of where in space Starship is during the coast here. And of course, we will be patching SpaceX back in on their audio once we get closer to that atmospheric interface. But in the meantime, we are going to answer your guys' comments and questions. You can send those in the chat by tagging me at the Launchpad. It's totally free to do so. So make sure you send that tag in there. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad. And here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And we're glad to have you joining us live here today. I do want to, I noticed a couple comments, and I'm just going to address them really quick. I do not control when YouTube puts ads on your broadcast. I have a button I can push that asks to add more ads. I have not pushed that during today's broadcast at any point. YouTube decides when to put ads. Ads are what pay for us to have Starbase cameras. So unfortunately, that's part of it. If you don't want ads, become YouTube Premium. That's your way around it. But we appreciate you guys being here. We're sorry if YouTube did that. You can always rewind, but that is totally out of our control. But yeah, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging me at the Launchpad. I'll do our very best on answering those live. I saw one come in from Marcine. Is there an ETA known of the burnt of demonstrator sat? I'm guessing you're asking when will the satellites die? Same time as Starship, basically. They're being ejected on a suborbital trajectory along with Starship. So once Starship hits the ocean, the satellites should be at least entering the atmosphere, if not kind of dead already. But great question there. Phantom, assuming those Dodge shots will be on SpaceX, we'll post anything that we see. You can follow us on X, TLPN_official, or over on Facebook, the Launchpad. We've been really growing that, so definitely check that out if you want to stay up to date on the latest space news. Or on Discord, I'm sure someone, if not myself, will post them in the TLP Discord. It's free to join, and that's where our community hangs out in between streams. Depending how the broadcast goes, once we wrap up the broadcast after Splashdown, make sure to head over to the Discord. I'll jump in there, answer some questions, say hello to you guys over in the TLP comms. So definitely make sure you've joined that. It's an awesome community, and we only get to do this thanks to your guys' generous support. So thank you so much for being here. Keep sending in those questions, tagging me at the Launchpad. Again, also A huge shout out to Noah, our TLP rocket chaser, who is down at Starbase capturing an incredible shot, the American flag with Starship launching in the background there. Huge thank you to him for being down there for us. Thanks, Toasted Loaf. I appreciate you saying that. DCats, I'm wondering if that was the moon we saw a few minutes ago. It's possible. I'd have to look at the orbital layout of where stuff is right now. If someone would like to verify that for me, that would be fantastic. It is possible that could have been the moon, could have been the sun, or it could have been one of the lights on the satellites, because they did say they had lights on them. So it's possible. Godman, is Starship going to be used to reach the moon and Mars? Yep, that is the whole reason why we have Starship. Starship was designed as a Mars interplanetary vehicle for Mars and beyond. It is being used for the moon. That is now one of its primary objectives, but was not on its at the very beginning. But it will be used for the moon. It will be used for Mars, and it will be used for beyond that. And yesterday they did confirm who will be one of the first interplanetary astronauts. One of the crew, the commander from 2, which was the first ever human flight polar mission. He will, be one of SpaceX's first interplanetary astronauts. So really exciting day. Cam Friesen, how big were those Dodger dogs? They are, let me see if I can get the exact size for you, because that is a really good question. They are identical to Starlink V3s because they are built on a Starlink V3 like body. They're built on the simulator. Let me see if I can get that size for you. I mean, they just fit within Starship, so they are very large. V3 is expected to have wingspan of 60 meters once fully deployed, unfolding from a base of 7 to 8 meters, because Starship is 9 meters. We have a video. They are playing a video. This is a video from a deployed satellite of Starship. I'm watching this in real time with you. This is video from the first ever deployment from a Starship of an operational satellite. The satellite filmed this and transmitted this back down to Earth. This is what it looks like to leave a Starship in space. Wow. And look at the hatch closing. This is incredible. There's the light turning on. So that is a light from the satellite lighting up Starship. You can see the frost there from the lower tank. And then what they would do is you would want they will have rotated Starship here to hopefully see the backside, right? Because this is the front. They want to see the back. But we got the shot, and look how fast we got that shot. That shot transmitted back down via Starlink. Truly incredible. But if you ever wondered what it was going to be like to be a Starlink deployed from Starship, there you go. There's your experience. If you ever wonder what it'd be like to be spacewalking out of a Starship, there's your view. You can see there the hatch, the funnel that'll be used for the propellant transfer demo in an upcoming flight. You can see those two different holes there. One's the funnel, one's the other side. That is where they will do the propellant demo, because they will have two Starships that will dock together. What a view. And SpaceX just bringing that out pure minutes after that happened real world time. That's truly incredible. And some incredible views from onboard of the Starship preparing for re-entry. We're about 8 minutes away from Starship entry. Starship now at 138 kilometers at altitude and descending. We'll listen back into SpaceX commentary.
If we get any more video down from those satellites, but I mean, that's one we've been chasing for a while, so really cool to see it come to fruition here on Flight 12. All right, coming up on 40 40 minutes into the flight, and we should start hitting the reentry period in the next 7 minutes or so. You'll start to see a light show building up. As we had talked about, we did skip that on-orbit relight of the Raptor engine. It was not needed for our trajectory or anything. We are on this suborbital trajectory to splash down in the Indian Ocean. We are going to attempt a landing burn. We'll see how they perform when we get there. And just a reminder, we are going to be stressing the ship on the way in. We're going to intentionally do a maneuver where we're going to kind of pitch the nose up and deploy those bottom flaps to really put a lot of pressure on them. So we'll see how it does through that maneuver, and then we'll be doing kind of a final banking turn before we get to a landing burn. So all that coming up in a few minutes. The light show should start beginning real soon.
SpaceX turning on their space shams there very quickly. Some incredible views of the night lights from the eastern coast of Africa. Now getting ready to come over Madagascar as it prepares for re-entry here, 127 kilometers in altitude and decreasing. Continue sending in those questions or comments in the chat. Tag me at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live there. I saw some people talking about when will we send the first mission to Mars. We got a few years. We got to prove Starship first. But I do believe SpaceX wants to do that Mars flyby before the end of the decade. Keep in mind, a Mars flyby is very different from a Mars landing. Similarly to Artemis 2. Artemis 2 did not get actually that close to the moon in the grand scheme of things, right? They were still thousands of miles away at the furthest point away from Earth, right? So they went quite a bit past it. So it wasn't like they were down to 10 kilometers above the surface. And I think that's what a Mars flyby will look like too, where we'll see some incredible photography and videography of Mars, but we won't actually, it'll still be a distance away, but it'll prove that we can send a human there, and then they'll prepare for a landing probably a couple of years later. But super excited to see this light show begin. You can kind of start to see the glow there on the side of Starship as it prepares for its re-entry. We are expecting that landing flip roughly 22 minutes from now. Keep in mind, timeline could be off just a little bit because of the delay of that one engine not working on the second stage or on the ship, and then them having to burn longer than they were expecting. But they had planned for this, right? So this is all still in the plans, but you can start to see that glow starting to build up on the outside of the ship as we hit 115 kilometers and decreasing. Starship traveling over 26,661 kilometers an hour in speed. That speed is increasing, another sign that it is starting its descent as it picks up speed as it falls back to Earth and begins to fly back to Earth. Phantom saying, say I wanted to go out for a live launch in person. What's the do's and don'ts of being there and the rules to follow? So I will say, Phantom, the rules are changing, and they're changing rapidly as Starbase grows. Oh, look at these views. Truly incredible. Wow. Phantom, general rule of thumb, you have to stand on the opposite side of the road from the facility. You're not allowed past. There are very clear signs of where property lines are. You are not allowed past those. If you pass those, you ruin it not only for yourself, but everyone else. If you do that, SpaceX has an incredible security team and security drones. They will chase you down with a drone and yell at you from a drone. It's kind of funny to see. I've seen it from where I was in the right place, but someone else wasn't. But things are changing. Rules are changing as Starship advances and as Starbase grows into a much larger facility, which it is currently going through. So people that went down for Flight 12 did not have near the access they had for Flight 11 or what we had at Flight 6 or what we had especially at Flight 1. So keeps changing. General rule of thumb, stay by your car, walk along the road. Listen to the sheriff and Starbase security are there. If you have questions on where you're allowed to be, just ask. They are incredibly friendly. They would rather you ask and over ask that you're doing the right thing than you do something wrong and then cause an issue, right? Keep in mind, this is an active test facility. If there is a ship or a booster or both out at the pad or the test site, remember those are active rockets. They are fully pressurized anytime that they are fully built. whether they're fueled or not, they are still pressurized vehicles, which means you are entering an area that most companies would not allow the public to be that close to. They can go pop, so just remember that for your safety. But it is incredible, definitely worth a visit if you can go. I would say probably in the next year, it's going to change a lot more. It's changed a lot in the last year, so. Linux, will one Starship support cargo and crew, or will the vehicle will have different variants? Absolutely. We were talking about it earlier in the show before launch. I know of at least 10 to 12 variants that they will probably have for Starship, which is incredible. And I'm sure there will be more than that over the decades that Starship is flying. But keep in mind, Starship also opens the ability for us to enter a new era of dreaming of what will the next ships be like. Will we reach that Star Trek future that we start building starships in Earth orbit because we can now take up supplies, right? One of the biggest things is getting supplies to orbit is why we can't launch bigger ships, because the bigger ships have such a difficult time getting up. Starship's already right on that limit of it can just make it to orbit, but it can't really go anywhere else without being refueled. Well, imagine we could build something 10, 20, 30 times the size of Starship in orbit. It doesn't have to come in and out of the Earth's atmosphere. It can look totally different. It doesn't have to look like a rocket or a plane. It could be anything, right? You open up to a much bigger options of what you can do in orbit. We're not there yet. That is decades from now. But those dreams can start being had, which is really, really special. Thanks for being here, Godman. We cover all launches from around the world. So if you like space, definitely subscribe. We bring you full coverage almost every single launch that we can. So definitely we hope to see you around. Thanks for checking us out. Ice cold, is the plasma coming off Starship green due to the alloys being used? That is a fantastic science question that I'm going to save and make sure I get a good answer for a future broadcast there, because that is a really great question. But most likely, that would come from the type of metals and the Earth's atmosphere and the temperature, right? Keep in mind, this is the heat that is building up as well. I mean, like Missing says, we can build the Hail Mary. I mean, why not? Why don't we can build an Enterprise? You know, that we are getting to that point that we could start dreaming of what that looks like. And that would be really, really cool. 47 minutes, 33 seconds into flight. Starship entry kind of really starting here at this point. As you can see, those colors starting to build up on the outside of the Starship as it makes its reentry now well past the Kármán line, now at 80 kilometers, coming in actually quite quickly towards the Indian Ocean. It's going to splash down near the coast of Australia, south of Asia. We'll adjust that map from SpaceX so you can see roughly where it's coming in. Keeping in mind, the map is based on real data, but the planned times might be a little off because we did have that time change or trajectory slightly different because of that one engine out. And we're going to be interested to see how the engine relight for the landing flip goes for the simulated splashdown, simulated landing, which will be a splashdown. Those are plasma. Those are not lights. That is plasma. That is the Earth's atmosphere heating up on the outside of Starship because it is traveling over 26,400 kilometers an hour. But that's decreasing because the atmosphere is starting to slow it down and Starship is starting to fly itself in here. This is always the most amazing part to watch. These last 15 minutes, 16 minutes of flight is just the next 5-6 minutes will be incredible. But the whole 15, 20 minutes of entry is incredible. We're going to see if SpaceX is commentating again, and if so, we'll listen back in.
Flight, and we need information on how the ship's systems perform. Reentry is an extremely demanding portion of flight where we essentially have to scrub all of the energy we use to launch the rocket back off in reverse. So the 18 million pounds of thrust that we had off 33 of those Raptor engines.
Just a little.
Just a little. We're now, and then another, several minute burn on the ship. We're now basically undoing all that energy here via aerodynamic braking, essentially. And of course, Starlink is a big part of it, as that's what allows us to actually gather this data and show these live views. And again, the data gathering is really the main reason why we're doing these flight tests. So Starlink provides us just one more path to collect that data that ultimately allows us to rapidly iterate Starship's design.
Now, if ship manages to make it all the way through re-entry, we'll collect valuable data on the spacecraft flying through the Earth's atmosphere at these hypersonic speeds, which is basically more than 5 times the speed of sound. Now, we do anticipate that it might be a little bit of a spicy re-entry, so we'll see how far we get. Re-entry is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communications with the spacecraft because it's re-entering at or around orbital velocity, roughly 8 kilometers per second, or for those of us that think in other units, roughly 5 miles per second. At those speeds, the spacecraft is moving through the atmosphere, and it creates that plasma field that we saw forming around the vehicle.
Yeah, and although the plasma looks really cool, it does distort some communication frequencies. So it's not uncommon to experience brief blackouts in communication. Of course, thinking long-term here, Starship is designed to land on Mars where there are no runways or other humans to help out. That's why we're going with the propulsive landing instead of a more traditional means like parachutes. Propulsive landing, not only, again, is it more cool, but it enables a more rapidly reusable rocket.
Yeah. Now, we should hear some call-outs as the ship makes its way back to Earth. When we hear entry max heating and entry max Q, that means the ship has made it through the maximum heating and aerodynamic loads that it will experience as it returns. So if we make it through those, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah. And you can see in the bottom left right now, we're at 23,500 kilometers per hour speed. That's just a crazy number to think about. But as we keep progressing in the mission, we are going to hear a call out when the ship is transonic and then subsonic. So transonic refers to the period of flight where the velocities of airflow surrounding and flowing past the vehicle are concurrently below, at, and above the speed of sound, kind of in that Mach 0.8 to 1.2 range. And for reference, commercial jets have a range of cruising speeds, but mostly fly around Mach 0.74 to Mach 0.85. And after we hear the call out that Starship is transonic, we should hear the call out when Starship is subsonic. This refers to speeds that are much less than the speed of sound, so at this point in the flight, ship's velocity will be slowing down.
We definitely have a crowd still here in the lobby of SpaceX headquarters down here at Starbase, Texas. Everyone is, loves watching ship re-entry. It's always such amazing colors. This must be what it feels like to be one of those praying mantis shrimp or mantis shrimp. I can't remember exactly what the name is, but the ones that see in billions of colors. This is the closest I feel to being one of those.
Yep. I think one other thing that's cool to point out right now is look in the bottom right. You can see where we are on a globe there. We're squarely in the Indian Ocean already, and we've only been flying for 53 minutes. Yeah. So pretty crazy. We went all the way from Texas to the Indian Ocean in less than an hour.
Yeah. She flies pretty fast.
She flies very fast.
All right, so the light show continuing. We are through the period of peak heating, and we'll be looking at the peak pressure coming up in the next couple of minutes. The next 10 minutes are probably going to be the spiciest of entry today. As a reminder, we are going to be doing some stress work on this ship where we're going to do a maneuver where we kind of kick the nose up to fully deploy those aft flaps to really get a good test of the structural strength of that part of the ship. We did that on one previous flight test on version 2. We're going to try and do that today. Since we did skip the in-space burn, we're carrying a little bit of extra propellant in our header tanks up in the nose. And so that's going to put a little bit of extra stress on those forward flaps as we come in. So we will see if they're able to hold through that reentry. So that will be another watch item. We did skip that in-space burn, but we are expecting at least 2 of those sea level engines to try and ignite for a landing burn. We entered the entry period in a good attitude, so hopefully making our way to the targeted splashdown point. We've got that Starship recovery team standing by, and we should be about 10 minutes away from splashdown. So a lot of excitement over the next couple of minutes. Kate and Jake, let's see how Starship holds up on the way in.
Yeah, and we just heard on the nets there that engine chill has started. So essentially what that means is we are prepping the landing engines by getting them down to temperature ahead of that landing burn later in the mission here.
And on a lot of our previous flight tests, we've been removing a bunch of the tiles. If you've watched those, we were really intentionally trying to push ship beyond its limits. On the last flight, we even had basically a hole get punched into the liquid oxygen tank that you could see when we did the landing burn into the ocean, and the ship was still able to make it. But right now, we're really going to be testing the structural strength of these flaps on the way in. Again, this is a flight test. We're trying to intentionally find where our limits are. And in this view, you're looking at a whole bunch of tiles. I think Jake talked about it earlier. We bonded some additional tiles to the leeward, or kind of the metal side of Starship, to see how those different bonding techniques would hold up. And looking like we've got quite a bit still attached.
Yeah, and as we're going down through the atmosphere here, we are at about Mach 16.1. So still extremely fast, although we have, scrubbed off a substantial amount of our speed already. Altitude at a little less than 60 kilometers.
All right, we're about 8 minutes away from our targeted landing and splashdown time. Again, this is when the ship's going to start really
Ship
getting
is
put
approaching
through
the
ringer.
end of the peak heating region.
Just heard the call out, getting to the end of the peak heating. So the highest temperature the Starship's going to see during its reentry.
This camera angle changes as it is attached to the forward flap on Starship. So we're actually experiencing the articulation of that hardware, helping to steer the ship down for its precise landing in the Indian Ocean.
Yep, that is just a really cool, kind of cool piece of perspective there. I know some people say it makes them a little seasick, but I definitely love it. It makes it feel like you're really riding along with the ship on the way down.
Yeah, and aside from just looking cool, all these camera views providing just really critical data on how the heat shield, how the flaps themselves are holding up. That's why we've got these in the flaps and then all scattered all around the ship so you can see how they hold up. There's some internal to the vehicle too and we're getting all of this video back via Starlink. Even as we're just enshrouded in plasma, we're able to kind of operate at a high enough frequency to punch through, and that is blue ocean and sunlight you're seeing just beyond the flap. So we are coming down into daylight, hopefully splashing down in the next 6 minutes or so in the Indian Ocean. We've still got a couple maneuvers lined up where we're going to be really stressing the flaps on the ship. So
Ship has passed through the peak heating region. External temperatures are coming down.
Wow, that is incredible news. As Dan mentioned, we were expecting this reentry to be super spicy, but excellent news that we're now past that period of peak heating and that now the external temperatures are starting to decrease. those heat shield tiles there on the belly of the ship, really doing a ton of work to burn off all of that inertia that the vehicle had prior to re-entering the atmosphere.
Yeah, and you can tell by the G meter down on the bottom right that we're starting to pick up a couple more Gs here, so we're definitely entering the thicker part of the atmosphere where we're scrubbing off all that energy, like Kate's saying.
All right, just about 5 minutes or so to go. We're coming up shortly on the maneuver where we're going to, it's affectionately called the flap slap, where we're going to kind of pitch the nose up on the ship, and you're going to see those aft flaps, the ones in the very bottom, fully deploy.
Ship is at peak dynamic pressure.
And we're now at peak pressure.
Ship flap load test has started.
Looks like it's holding. Again, the intent of that was to put just a lot of extra stress on those aft flaps. We are expecting the forward ones too to see a little bit of extra stress as we've got a little more propellant in our header tank, so the area right at the very nose of
Ship
Starship.
flap load test is complete.
And we're through that test.
There we go. And we just did that test at Mach 7, just for reference there. So we are still going incredibly fast.
All right, we are just about 3.5 minutes or so away from our targeted landing burn. Again, we're expecting to try and see 2 of these Raptor engines light for the landing burn. Nominally, we planned for 3, but we're going to give it a try with 2. Hopefully we've got
Ship is starting the RTLS banking maneuver.
And that right there, so we're starting a banking maneuver, and essentially what that is when we come back to Starbase, or when we plan to come back to Starbase, the trajectory is designed so we'll essentially swing out over the Gulf and do a swoop maneuver to then come back to the towers for catch. And so we are doing that exact same maneuver as we head towards our targeted splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, and that call out there that we heard, RTLS, stands for Return to Launch Site. So definitely a pretty cool thing we're demoing here on the ship. You know, as in the future, we are going to be trying to bring the ship back to the launch site, which is going to be absolutely insane.
Absolutely. But of course, we want to test out these maneuvers, these principles, prior to actually bringing the hardware back to the pad. This is the same reason why we were intentionally not trying to bring the booster back to the pad. So we're trying all these things out in this developmental phase of the vehicle, and really proving what a test flight is.
Absolutely.
Dynamic pressure is coming down.
All right, we heard there dynamic pressure coming down, and I'd say we're in a pretty good bank right now.
Yeah, executing the power slide. We're about 90 seconds away from our anticipated landing burn. Clouds coming up, pretty sunrise on the other side of the planet.
Starship is subsonic and is on target.
The crowd here reacting to that call out, letting us know that we are on target for this precise landing in the Indian Ocean. This will once again be a soft splashdown. We should get some pretty cool views from the recovery team who we chatted with earlier. They are standing by to receive this ship. Once again, this is the first flight of our completely redesigned Starship version 3.
Yeah, and if you remember the suborbital flights from a few years ago, this is very much the same regime that we're in here. So we're sub 15 kilometers, executing what we call the belly flip maneuver.
Yes, serial number 8, the first belly flop. I remember it well. Just some really amazing views of the Earth as the ship is coming back home. Thanks, Starlink.
Yeah, you can see the aft flap there making minor corrections.
Starship is turning for final approach to landing site.
Look at that turn.
There we go. Minor corrections and a full turn.
Yeah, Starship doesn't fly like an airplane. It's a lot more like a skydiver. Full belly flop on the way down, using those flaps similar to arms to help change the path of the air over you. Coming up real soon. Again, going for a landing burn, trying to light 2 of these Raptor sea level engines.
Landing burn startup.
Landing burn startup. 2 engines lit. Successful flip. Buoy cam
Starship is
catching
landed.
it.
Good shutdown.
Amazing. That ball of fire is exactly what we wanted to see for the ship today. As weird as it may sound to hear, but it is the truth.
Absolutely wild. At the beginning of the show,
We're pretty hyped.
we guaranteed excitement at the beginning of the show, and I'd say Starship delivered.
Absolutely. An incredible day for Starship. That was the first flight of that completely redesigned vehicle. As you can tell, the teams are incredibly proud of what we just saw.
Yeah, V3 definitely showed up. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've pretty happy crowd in the control room behind me, I will say. It's probably the most excited I've seen a lot of people in a really long time. On target landing. Wow. Actually, let's jump over. Hey, Tyler, how's everyone holding up in Hawthorne?
We're having a great time, Dan. Thank you so much. That was another exciting Starship flight in the books, and we hope that you enjoyed those awesome Starlink views. So congratulations to the team at Starbase and everyone here and around the company. So many employees have contributed to the Starship program as we continue to iterate and make progress towards a multi-planetary future. So that wraps it up for us here in Hawthorne. Thank you guys for tuning in, and back to you, Dan.
All right, thanks. So just to recap, we lifted off right at the top of our window, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. We were able to see the booster light 33 of those Raptor engines get off the pad and ascent over the Gulf. Successful hot stage separation. Initially lit 6 of those Raptor engines, lost one of the RVACs on the way uphill, and then the booster didn't complete its full boost back. Its mission ended a little bit early, but landed in the clear area that we had set in advance. Once we were on orbit with ship, we were able to get through our payload deployment, 22 satellites, the 20 simulators, the 2 Dodger dogs, which successfully turned on cameras. We'll see if we got any more views from those. So obviously stick around. Skipped the Raptor relight, but made it through re-entry on target landing in the Indian Ocean. You saw those views. Starship made it. It's been a long time coming. We're really excited to see this vehicle fly, and there are several more on the way. So that's going to do it for me up here. Send it back down to Kate and Jake and everybody who I hope is at least a little bit excited down in Star Factory.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely insane down here. We would, of course, want to thank the fine people of Cameron County, including the residents here at Starbase, as well as the Coast Guard, the Federal Aviation Administration, the government of Mexico, and of course, the Australian Space Agency.
Yeah, so honestly, just huge congratulations to all our teammates here at SpaceX and everyone who's supported the Starship mission just in general here. It's been a massive effort, really incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that worked really hard to make things look easy, so shout out to those teams. Now be sure to follow SpaceX on X for updates and more exciting views that we didn't get to show you on today's live program. I have a feeling we'll see some pretty amazing stuff come from those demonstration satellites that we were able to show some initial footage of. Now, if you're interested in more launch coverage, head on over to our profile on X. We also have SpaceX.com/launches for you to check out for the most up-to-date information. So thanks to all of you for tuning in. We're going to close it out and celebrate with our colleagues. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Wow, what an incredible day. Here's another look at that video of the deployment of the first ever operational satellite from Starship Flight 12. Was it perfect flight? No, but it was an incredible milestones achieved. Starship making it all the way down to splashdown. And from those drone shots that we got and from the buoy shots, I would say they nailed their target where they were hoping to come. And keep in mind, that's with a trajectory that was not planned because they lost an engine. And they still were that much on target. And on top of that, those quick shots that we saw, and hopefully we'll see many more pictures coming in over the coming hours and days from SpaceX, it looked like a lot of tiles were still on Starship this time, which is another great sign. Really, really great flight. Other than an engine out from Starship, it was a basic great first flight ever for a Starship on the Starship side. The booster had some issues, which interestingly enough, the booster was the most reliable in V2, but truly, truly incredible. If it was your first time here, though, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad. On behalf of the entire TLP crew, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on the latest of the Starship program, launch coverage from around the world, and the latest space news coming to you soon right here on TLP. We can only do this thanks to your guys' generous support. So thank you to all of those members that have supported us. Marcine sending in a super chat there. Bonus RUD at the end. That is the type of RUD we will allow because that was basically planned. We knew it was going to do that. But what an amazing sight that we actually got to see that live. You got to watch a Starship explode live from the Indian Ocean. We want to hear from you. We've got a really quick poll jumping in the chat right now. When do you think the next Starship will fly? Less than a month, 1 month, 2 months, or do you think it'll be 3 months or more? You can let us know there. And if you have questions, I'm going to be answering those live for the next few minutes. You can send those in the chat by tagging me at the Launchpad, and I'll do my very best on answering those live for you guys here this evening. But an incredible day here. Starship Flight 12 in the history books. And we are excited to see what is next for the Starship program. Again, a huge congratulations to everyone at SpaceX for getting to this point. It has been a long time coming, as they said many times. October last year was the last time we saw Starship fly, but an all-new ship, an all-new booster, an all-new pad, all new engines, different grid fin configuration, a new hot stage ring, new heat shield tile adhesives, and so many other things. And we got that video back in minutes from the first ever operational satellite being deployed from the Starship there, which is really, really amazing. And we're glad to have been able to see that. So we're answering your questions. You can send those in the chat by taking me at the Launchpad. I know it's getting late for our friends over in the other side of the world. So thank you so much to those that did join us. If you are heading out, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our live coverage right here on TLP. We're getting our cameras back into position so you guys will be able to keep an eye out on the latest happening there at Starbase, because though these live broadcasts for the launch coverage will be ending shortly, our 24/7 Starbase coverage never does end, and you can keep an eye on everything happening at Starbase, at the build site, at the launch site, and even at Massey's with our very own TLP cameras. And we, again, a huge thank you to John on the TLP crew for maintaining these, and to our members for helping us be able to do things like this. We got lots of plans for more cameras coming online around the world. We are excited to bring those to you later this year. You can see the build site there where Gigabay is being built up. And you can see it's still hazy. Hazy day there down at Starbase, but we did get some really great views of the launch there. Of course, the onboard cameras hard to beat down at Starbase. But keep sending in those questions. Was the explosion planned? The explosion at the end, yeah, it was expected. When it hits the water, it normally does pop, and it is very hot because it just re-entered the atmosphere. So that is normally expected to occur. So not a huge surprise that we had that happen. But thanks for sending that in. Really great comment there. One awesome team Elon has. There are tens of thousands of amazing employees at SpaceX. It is truly incredible for it. Marcine's heading out. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. Ross, the explosion may have been bigger than usual due to carrying excess fuel. I guess, yeah, it would have a little bit of extra fuel because they didn't do the relight burn. But I don't believe it would have, I mean, maybe it would. I mean, that burn wasn't supposed to be very long. So yeah, it probably had a little bit. That's definitely possible. The landing burn runs from the landing tank, from the header tanks. So that definitely would have been using that fuel. So yeah, there might have been some in the other one. Do you think they'll have video of the booster crash down? Great way to call it that. Posted somewhere after this. No, because the booster didn't splash down, crash down on where they were expecting it, because they didn't have that boost back successful. It splashed down way down into the Gulf of America, way down range from where they were expecting. So because of that, I would not expect footage from it. I mean, maybe we see something from on board, but I think they showed us what they had. I'm sure they have other cameras on board that we didn't see. So they probably saw some more than we did. I know, in fact, they did. But whether we get to actually see that ever, I wouldn't expect it. Sis, how do you think they will fix it when the crew will be on board in the future? What do you mean? They won't have crew until it's working properly. This was a test flight, so this was highly expected. So yeah, this I would say today was really good. Yes, there were points of failure. That's expected. But if you rank how Flight 1 of V1 went, and Flight 1 of V2 went, and Flight 1 of V3 went, this was an incredible first flight of V3. Absolutely incredible. Remember, V1 and V2 didn't even make it past the Caribbean on their first flight. This one made it all the way to splashdown in the Indian Ocean. So that is amazing. You can see the chopsticks have remained at the top of pad B. So it doesn't look like they did a simulated booster catch at this point, because if they did, those would have come down. So it looks like they did not run that test like we've seen in the past. Had some extra fuel to celebrate, exactly. I think with that, though, I appreciate you all for being here. A huge thank you again to Noah, our TLP rocket chaser, being down there at Starbase. Huge thank you to the TLP crew, all of our moderators that have been on over the last 6-8 hours. We've been running the countdown and online all the time with the 24/7 stream. Thank you to all of them. If you're interested in becoming part of the TLP crew, applications are open. Maybe you want to join me as a launch commentator for the next Starship launch. Maybe you like helping moderate the chat. Maybe you have a passion for journalism and want to do writing of the latest space news or representing us on location as a TLP correspondent. Or maybe you like pushing buttons and pushing them in the good way to help make the show run. Take a moment, fill out that application. Takes about 5 minutes. We have an amazing team. We're hoping to grow it, and you can be basically located anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection or can get a Starlink. There is a spot for you here at TLP. But for now, from our TLP Canada studio in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, my name is Zach, and on behalf of the entire TLP crew, we will see you next time right here back on TLP, because space is better together. Good night, and go Starship.